Chapter 1511. With a flip of his hand, Wang Sheng flashed the token he had obtained from Grandmaster Qian. The old man reached out to take it, but Wang Sheng's hand retreated slightly and avoided his hand. The old man was stunned. Then he shook his head with a wry smile and apologized to Wang Sheng. "I'm impulsive." This time, the old man did not reach out again, but he moved forward. With the light of the torch in the tunnel, he carefully looked at the style of the token and nodded. "I don't know if the Pavilion Master has told you that when you come here with this token, you still have to accept the test of 8 elders of the secret plane before you can really take over the Linglong Pavilion." The old man verified the authenticity of the token and took the lead again. He asked casually as he walked. "Old Qian wanted to kill me at that time. Would he let me take over the Linglong Pavilion?" Wang Sheng did not continue the old man's words, but asked directly, "Old man, are you mistaken?" "Yes." The one who answered Wang Sheng was not the old man who led the way in front, but another strong man whose cultivation was not low. They had just walked a few steps, and they had already walked into a hall. There were torches everywhere in the hall, which was very bright. There were more than a dozen very strong people inside, and the one who spoke was one of them. He was called a strong man, but in fact he was very strong. He looked not young, and he had a full beard on his face. Fortunately, the beard was only half white and half black, so he did not look so old. Wang Sheng wasn't surprised at all by such a muscular figure. The great masters he knew who were really related to forging all had such a figure. Years of physical work had made them fully exercise. None of them was thin. The Pavilion Master once said that he has no personal resentment for you, and he even sincerely admires you. Seeing Wang Sheng come in and look around, the strong man continued to explain, "I think you can understand what the Pavilion Master means." Wang Sheng nodded. There was no personal grudge between him and Master Qian. They were just competitors for business. People of the same trade were enemies. This was not just a saying. Even if there was such a thing, it would be a competitive relationship between the Pavilion of Delicacy and the Lijun Lane. It had nothing to do with personal relationships. In terms of personal relationships, Wang Sheng and Master Qian could be considered friends who could drink together. The Pavilion Master brought out all the people who hated the Duke. They were all the friends that the Pavilion Master grew up with. Be it public or private, he wants to settle things with you. The burly man revealed another piece of information to Wang Sheng. Thinking about the attitude of the people who attacked him at that time, as well as their attitude towards Wang Sheng now, Wang Sheng nodded again. Those people were indeed full of killing intent. They really wanted Wang Sheng dead. Before I left, the Pavilion Master told me. The brawny man was not surprised by Wang Sheng's appearance. Not only him, but everyone present was also not surprised. This time, Pavilion Master will either bring the High Duke back, or the High Duke will come and take over the Pavilion of Delicacy. Had Master Qian predicted all of this? Wang Sheng recalled the scene of fighting with the people of the Pavilion of Delicacy at that time. How could Master Qian be so kind? How could he be sure that he would give him a chance to speak and let him tell him the location of the secret plane of the Pavilion of Delicacy? Or did he already know that Wang Sheng could open the 8-fold exquisite seal box? The test of the elders of the secret plane, is it a fight? Wang Sheng asked the brawny man calmly. Yes. The brawny man replied without concealment. Otherwise, you won't get the key to the secret vault of the Pavilion of Delicacy. I guess that the 8 elders must be masters of the legendary realm, right? Wang Sheng asked with a smile. Yes. The brawny man nodded again. If I want to take the test, will the 8 of them come together? Wang Sheng finally understood the idea of Master Qian and asked with a smile. Yes. The brawny man answered without hesitation. Master Qian thought very well. If more than 50 of them were defeated by Wang Sheng or destroyed by other means, then if Wang Sheng wanted to take over the Pavilion of Delicacy, he must accept the siege of the 8 legendary masters. In the place of despair, Wang Sheng could use other methods and even use the environment to break the siege of the masters of the Pavilion of Delicacy. But here, Wang Sheng could not use any environmental advantage. Especially here was the home ground of the 8 masters of the Pavilion of Delicacy. On the contrary, they could use the geographical advantage to besiege Wang Sheng. There was no way to retreat in a battle against 8 legendary masters with a solid foundation and a lifetime of hard work. Wang Sheng had only cultivated for a few years, and if he did not take advantage of the geographical advantage and did not allow him to use long-range weapons, it could be said that Wang Sheng would be crippled even if he did not die. This was the last trap that Master Qian arranged for Wang Sheng. Unfortunately, he did not even have the chance to tell Wang Sheng where the secret place of the Pavilion of Delicacy was. He was shot to death by Wang Sheng. Master Qian probably did not expect that his arrangement still had a chance to come true. At least, Wang Sheng had found this place with the help of the map. How can old Qian be sure that I will come? Wang Sheng asked puzzledly. That's what the master said. The brawny man replied very seriously. He said that I am afraid that you have offended the public this time. The world is so big, and there are only a few places you can go. You're not the kind of person who is willing to live a life of concealment, so you will definitely find a place where you can make a comeback in the future. The secret place of the Pavilion of Delicacy is one of the best choices. Old Qian is really meticulous. Wang Sheng smiled bitterly. Master Qian really knew me. He knew that I would definitely find the secret place of the Pavilion of Delicacy. The only thing that he did not calculate was probably his own death, whether it was for the purpose of secret cultivation or to build more powerful weapons. It seemed that the secret place of the Pavilion of Delicacy was really one of the best choices. Therefore, he concluded that Wang Sheng would definitely find him, and then his final arrangement could put Wang Sheng to death. When the elders test me, can I use the heavy sniper crossbow? Wang Sheng asked the brawny man. No. The brawny man shook his head directly. The elders don't use weapons, and you can't use weapons either. Sure enough, Wang Sheng secretly sneered in his heart. The elders were probably very good at martial arts, and their lethality was amazing even without weapons. They really wanted to completely limit the external force that Wang Sheng could use. Can I ask someone else for help? Wang Sheng continued to ask. No. The brawny man shook his head again. This also eliminated the possibility that Wang Sheng would ask the old Taoist Ling Su for help. What if I don't pass the test of the elders? Wang Sheng asked with a smile. Then you can't get the key, and you can't accept the inheritance of the Pavilion of Delicacy. The brawny man replied very seriously. Is this the key you were talking about? Wang Sheng took out the strange key found in the storage ring and asked the brawny man. Chapter 15:12. It's this one. The brawny man only glanced at it and immediately nodded without the slightest hesitation. This key was placed in Master Qian's storage ring, not locked in the 8-fold exquisite seal box, so it was not surprising that Wang Sheng could get it. The people on this side of the secret plane seemed to know it too, so they were not surprised at all. It's useless to have the key alone. The brawny man saw that Wang Sheng was waiting for him to explain, and before waiting for Wang Sheng to speak, he took the initiative to say, Duke, you can see that there are 10 sections on the key, and each section corresponds to a different rotation angle. If any section is wrong, you will not be able to open the secret warehouse. The lock of the secret warehouse is connected to a formation that is always running. Once the rotation is wrong, you will be attacked by the formation immediately. The brawny man was not afraid that Wang Sheng would know more secrets of the secret plane of the exquisite pavilion, and directly said the most serious consequences in the face of that formation. I am afraid that the legendary masters will not be able to resist. Must I get the way to open the lock? Wang Sheng asked with a frown. There should be an exquisite seal box with the key. The brawny man and the old man behind him all knew this. At this moment, the brawny man explained to Wang Sheng, the method to open the secret warehouse is recorded in the exquisite seal box. When you can really open the secret warehouse, you will be considered to have successfully taken over the secret plane of the exquisite pavilion. The key of the exquisite seal box is in the hands of the 8 elders, right? Wang Sheng smiled. Yes. The brawny man also nodded with a smile. The way to open the exquisite seal box is also different for each elder. So when we fight, I have to be careful not to hurt them too much, otherwise the exquisite seal box can't be opened, right? Wang Sheng sneered in his heart, but he still kept a smile on his face and asked, maybe that's the case. The brawny man seemed a little embarrassed, but he didn't refute Wang Sheng. Master Qian had a good plan. He calculated that Wang Sheng would come to the secret land of the Linglong Pavilion, so he arranged a test for the 8 elders. Weapons were not allowed, and the elders had the geographical advantage. In addition, Wang Sheng could not be ruthless. As long as the 8 elders were ruthless, Wang Sheng would definitely die. Unfortunately, Master Qian's arrangement was just a precautionary measure. It was not really that meticulous. He did not think that there would be any mishaps when he brought 50 people to chase after Wang Sheng. Master Qian's overconfidence had caused him to lose his life completely. At the same time, he had also lost everything that he had planned. What if I don't want to go through the 8 elders test and open the secret vault directly? Wang Sheng asked again. Sure. The brawny man was not surprised at all. There were so many restrictions when it was 1 against 8. It was better to go to the secret vault to take a look. Maybe they could open the secret vault without the elders doing anything. Therefore, he was very appreciative of Wang Sheng's question. Duke is said to be outstanding in breaking formations. Maybe you can open the secret vault without taking any risks. Then, without the consent of the elders, can I still take over the secret land of the Linglong Pavilion? Wang Sheng finally asked the most crucial question. All the foreshadowing was actually for this question. As long as Duke can open the secret vault of the Linglong Pavilion with the key, Duke will be the next pavilion master of the Linglong Pavilion. The brawny man answered with certainty. Not only the brawny man, but the dozen old men behind him also did the same thing. Everyone had the same idea, whether it was those who wanted Wang Sheng to die or those who didn't want Wang Sheng to die. There was no exception. Either Duke can pass the test of the 8 elders and become the pavilion master of the Linglong Pavilion, or Duke can open the 8-fold exquisite seal box without the key. This way, we will all be convinced. The brawny man represented himself and the people behind him and said to Wang Sheng in a serious tone, "We have no objection to people with better skills than us becoming the pavilion master. It is the same to directly open the secret vault. Even if you don't have the best skills, as long as you have heaven-defying luck, we will all be convinced." "I want to try," Wang Sheng said to the brawny man. "Duke, please." The other party was also very straightforward. He directly made a please gesture and walked in front to lead the way. After passing through a long tunnel, everyone appeared in a spacious valley. There were countless vines intertwining above the valley. Looking down from above, it was impossible to see what was below. At the same time, Wang Sheng also felt a faint aura of a formation. There was an aura concealing formation above, passing through from above or around several directions. Unless one was like Wang Sheng, who could explore the formation in detail, it was impossible to find the valley and the people in the valley. There were many people here. There were many houses that were directly cut out of the stone walls around the valley. When they saw Wang Sheng coming in with the old men, they came out one by one and looked at Wang Sheng curiously. There were old and young people, men and women in the valley. Some of them were obviously a family. This valley was big enough, bigger than the first camp built by the Imperial Treasure House in the Land of Thousand Despair. It could accommodate thousands of people. There were so many of them, but now, all of them were doing nothing. They walked out and looked at Wang Sheng, whom they had never seen before. Wang Sheng sensed the auras of 8 legendary experts. They were located in 8 different directions in the valley. Needless to say, these 8 people should be the 8 elders. It was estimated that they were the last confidants of Master Qian. They were the masters who helped Master Qian to stabilize everything in the secret land of the Pavilion of Delicacy. Based on the aura alone, Wang Sheng knew that he was absolutely no match for the 8 elders if he didn't use weapons and couldn't cause excessive damage to the opponents. He couldn't hurt them, but they could attack unscrupulously. Once they fought, the result would only be death. Therefore, Wang Sheng would rather take over the Pavilion of Delicacy in other ways. As long as he took over the secret land of the Pavilion of Delicacy, what the 8 elders would choose would be up to them. The strong man's surname was Wang. Many people here were very close to him and called him Uncle Wang. Some people naturally asked about the origin of Wang Sheng. This is the Duke Chongqing you often hear about. Old Wang did not avoid the topic and introduced the identity of Wang Sheng to everyone. Wang Sheng underestimated his position in the hearts of these people in the pavilion of delicacy. When the surrounding people stared at him with fiery eyes, even 4 of the 8 elders looked at him with the same fiery eyes. Wang Sheng realized how respected he was in the eyes of the world's top craftsmen. Putting aside those personal grudges, the many incredible ideas that Wang Sheng brought to the whole world were enough to make all the masters in the world worship him. Most of the people in the secret land of the Pavilion of Delicacy were pure craftsmen. Their minds were even purer, and they also worshipped Wang Sheng from the bottom of their hearts. Something happened to the former Pavilion Master Qian. Old Wang explained the purpose of Wang Sheng's visit in the simplest words. Duke Chongqing came back with the key of Pavilion Master Qian. He wants to try to open the secret vault and take over the Pavilion of Delicacy. Chapter 15:13. As soon as Lao Wang finished his words, the crowd was in an uproar. Something happened to the former Pavilion Master Qian? How did it happen? Most of the people present didn't know, and they began to discuss it. Many people knew the inside story, but only those who were experienced and prudent. Even if they knew, they wouldn't say it. Actually, it was the Pavilion of Delicacy's fault. Because of the competition for business, they didn't think about how to improve their service and snatch customers. Instead, they wanted to attack their competitors. In essence, the entire island was made up of craftsmen. Lao Wang said it out of kindness, but he was afraid of revealing the inside story. No matter who was in the right, Wang Sheng killed the former Pavilion Master's man, and he would be regarded as an enemy by the entire island. Pavilion Master Qian died in my hands. However, Wang Sheng didn't appreciate it and directly told the truth. You don't have to say the reason. Everyone has their own reasons. I don't think I'm wrong to kill him, and Pavilion Master Qian doesn't think he's wrong to attack me. There's no right or wrong. We're all adults, and we only have standpoints and interests. There's no right or wrong. As soon as Wang Sheng said that, the entire valley fell silent. Everyone looked at the calm Wang Sheng in shock. Many young people couldn't understand why Wang Sheng dared to admit that he killed Pavilion Master Qian here. Didn't he know that this was the secret place of the Pavilion of Delicacy? Wasn't he afraid of death? Those who knew the inside story were very calm. No one said anything, and they just quietly waited to see what Wang Sheng would do next. After saying that, Wang Sheng looked around the valley calmly. Seeing everyone's reaction, Wang Sheng became more and more confident. Master Qian spent most of his time in the capital. After all, as the Pavilion Master, he needed to have first-hand information at all times to make decisions. Some big businesses also needed his approval, and the secret place of the Pavilion of Delicacy obviously didn't have such conditions. Therefore, he could only spend most of his time in the capital. Because of this, Wang Sheng was sure that except for some friends and confidants who grew up with Master Qian, other people's concept of Pavilion Master Qian was limited to the title of Pavilion Master. How many times had those young people seen Master Qian? To these people, what was the difference between Pavilion Master Qian and Wang Sheng? They didn't see him often and only heard of him occasionally. Speaking of which, everyone had heard of Wang Sheng more often. After all, Wang Sheng often came up with some strange things for everyone to study. His reputation as an academic guide was much better than that of the Pavilion Master. Wang Sheng had made the right bet. Out of the thousands of people present, not a single person jumped out and shouted that they wanted to avenge the Pavilion Master. Most of the craftsmen were honest people. They would not take the initiative to fight and kill. Most of the people's gazes were focused on the 8 elders, waiting for them to make a decision. The Linglong Pavilion has its own rules. They cannot be broken. Under so many gazes, the 8 elders could no longer sit still. They all stood up and walked in front of Wang Sheng. An elder who seemed to be the oldest and most qualified said, before Pavilion Master Qian left, he also said that as long as Duke Chongqing can complete the test, he will be the new Pavilion Master. Everyone became more and more confused. Why did the pavilion master arrange for Wang Sheng to take the test to be the new pavilion master after he killed the pavilion master? Many people could not understand these things, but it did not prevent them from knowing the rules of taking over the pavilion master of Linglong. As the elders said, rules were rules. As long as Wang Sheng passed the test, he would naturally be the pavilion master. If he failed the test, it was estimated that Wang Sheng would be a dead man. There was no need to take revenge. Duke Changsheng, are you ready? The leading elder asked Wang Sheng. As he spoke, the people in the valley had already retreated slowly under the command of the other elders, leaving a large open space. I plan to try to open the secret warehouse directly. Wang Sheng showed the pavilion master's token and the key and shook them in front of the other party. The 8 elders suddenly understood. It was not surprising that Wang Sheng made this decision. After all, it was 1 against 8, and there were so many rules. The chance of winning was really not big. Directly challenging to open the secret warehouse was also a shortcut. I have long heard that Duke Changsheng has a unique way of formation. Today, we will have a feast for our eyes. The leading elder stroked his beard and laughed. As long as I open the secret warehouse, will I be able to take over the Ling Long Pavilion? Wang Sheng asked again in public. Some things were better to be made public. In this way, it would be difficult for some people to change their minds. That's right. The elders nodded, and so did many old people. The leading elder replied with a smile, but without the test of the 8 of us, even if you open the secret warehouse and have the qualification to take over the Ling Long Pavilion, you still can't get the top secret of the Ling Long Pavilion. That's good. Wang Sheng confirmed this point. After getting the affirmative answers from the elders, he was finally relieved. He replied with a smile, "Don't worry. I am not interested in the top secret of the Ling Long Pavilion. I only want you to help me make a new weapon." Hearing that Wang Sheng wanted to make a new weapon, many old people in the valley slightly raised their eyebrows. They had already used the lathes made by Wang Sheng and praised them. The heavy sniper crossbow made them even more amazed. Now that Wang Sheng wanted to make a new weapon, wouldn't it be more exciting? For these craftsmen, there was nothing more attractive than fighting for power and profit than a new and refreshing weapon. Even the pupils of a few of the 8 elders unconsciously widened a little. "Duke, please." The leading elder extended his hand to Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng slowly walked in the direction he pointed. The 8 elders immediately followed by old Wang's group, then the group of old people in the valley, and finally the young people. They went all the way to the secret warehouse that they knew. It was a huge cave. The width and height of the cave were enough for 3 liberation cars to drive in side by side. They walked all the way to the deepest part of the cave. The 8 elders walked on 2 sides, 4 on each side. They left Wang Sheng in the middle. The others behind him stopped in front of a line that didn't exist and watched quietly. Directly in front of Wang Sheng was a flat wall. At a height of about 1.5 meters, there was a very delicate disc. The disc was made up of 10 rings nested in a small disc in the innermost part. There was a small hole in the middle of the disc, and every ring outside the hole had different numbers and words. Looking at this thing that looked like a delicate password lock, Wang Sheng finally smiled. He finally saw a password lock with a complete and complex thought process. It was not easy. Chapter 15:14. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng also knew that this empty area was probably the attack area of the formation when the unlocking failed, but Wang Sheng didn't care about it. He went straight forward and walked to the disc password lock. Under everyone's gaze, Wang Sheng stood quietly in front of the password lock and closed his eyes. The people behind couldn't see Wang Sheng's movements, and they were somewhat puzzled. But the 8 elders on both sides saw it clearly. It was rumored that Wang Sheng had a very unique way to crack the formation. Was he using this trick now? Everyone was guessing. Fortunately, the craftsmen had enough patience. No one was in a hurry to urge him. They were all waiting quietly. They all wanted to see if the legendary ever-victorious guild, which had always created miracles, would create another miracle in front of them again. Wang Sheng was indeed feeling the formation, and the 7 words formula kept exploring. After standing in the same place for more than 20 minutes, Wang Sheng breathed a sigh of relief. He had finally figured out the formation. This was the formation that Wang Sheng had spent the longest time on since he mastered the 7 words formula. Even breaking the inheritance formation of the Taoist sect's ancestors was not so troublesome. Of course, this also proved that everything was moving forward. The inheritance formation of the Taoist sect's ancestors was indeed powerful, but there was still a certain gap between it and the secret land of the Pavilion of Delicacy, which had always been at the forefront of research and progress. In Wang Sheng's left hand, the strange key from Master Qian's storage ring suddenly appeared. Many people had already recognized that this key was the key to the secret vault. Everyone was looking forward to Wang Sheng trying to open the door with the key. This was an attempt without getting the method of unlocking the lock, and everyone was looking forward to a miracle. The 8 elders looked calm, but some of them were very disdainful in their hearts. In fact, there were many things that ordinary members of the Pavilion of Delicacy did not know. Even the Pavilion Master himself could not fully grasp the way to open the secret vault. The Pavilion Master only knew half of it at most. The remaining half was in the hands of the 8 elders, and each of them had a part. Only a Pavilion Master who was recognized by all 8 of them could truly open the secret vault. Otherwise, even if the Pavilion Master's portion of the records fell into Wang Sheng's hands, he wouldn't be able to open it. Although the probability of this happening was very small, who knew if Wang Sheng was powerful enough to open the 8-fold exquisite seal box by himself? But even if that was the case, he was dead for sure. The lock of the secret storehouse was not something the 8-fold exquisite box could compare to. Not to mention anything else, just the size of the box meant that the 8-fold exquisite box could not be made very complicated. But the door of the secret storehouse, which was half the mountain wall, could be made as big and complicated as they wanted. A few of them secretly sneered and wanted to see how Wang Sheng would die. However, Wang Sheng did something that made everyone dumbfounded. He actually threw the key to the secret warehouse to the bearded old Wang behind him. What was he trying to do? While everyone was puzzled, a long, thin piece appeared in Wang Sheng's hand. Wang Sheng shook his hand, and the thin piece made a rustling sound. It was a piece of soft and unknown material. Everyone present was a senior in the crafting world. They could almost see the characteristics of the material with a glance. But with so many people, everyone could come to the conclusion that the material was very elastic. But as for what it was, no one could say. Wang Sheng was not surprised at all. This was one of the pieces of cartilage that Wang Sheng found on the mad shark skeleton. They had never seen a mad shark before, so how could they know about this kind of thing? This cartilage was softer and more elastic than ribs and fish bones. As long as he infused it with spiritual energy, it would become hard and soft at will. It was simply the best material to open a lock. It was just that Wang Sheng did not have the time to make it into a thin filament, but for such a large password lock, this size was just right. Seeing Wang Sheng take this soft thing and put it into the keyhole, everyone was stunned. Wang Sheng was going to open the lock without a key? Was he too confident in himself? Or is he looking down on so many great masters of the Linglong Pavilion? This cipher disc was a collection of the wisdom and craftsmanship of almost dozens of secret plane great masters. One person or more than a dozen people were responsible for the design, and more than a dozen people were responsible for the design and manufacture of each disc separately. Finally, they were combined together. Except for the recognized Pavilion Master, no one could open the part that was mastered by anyone else. Who did Wang Sheng think he was? Could he compete with the wisdom and hard work of so many people? Wang Sheng's move made many people extremely dissatisfied, but it also made several elders who had planned to kill Wang Sheng completely relieved. Wang Sheng was courting death himself, and they were happy to see it happen. Speaking of which, if Wang Sheng could really open this cipher disc with such a thing and open the door of the secret vault without being attacked by the formation, then what if they bowed their heads and acknowledged him as the Pavilion Master? The elders were just a management identity, but their essence was still a great master in a certain aspect. Craftsmen still had a lot in common when they met craftsmen who had superior means and ideas. Although Pavilion Master Qian was the pavilion master, his work had always been mediocre. If Wang Sheng hadn't gotten him a Grandmaster appraiser, he wouldn't have been able to compete with those Grandmasters. But Wang Sheng was a pure craftsman that they could accept. Several kinds of uncanny craftsmanship balls had made Wang Sheng honored as a great master of carving. Not to mention that Wang Sheng had so many wonderful ideas, which could make their artistic pursuit further. The thin piece in Wang Sheng's hand had been stuffed into the keyhole. At this time, whether they were angry or thinking, they all held their breath and quietly watched Wang Sheng's movements, waiting for the next result. If he wasn't standing in front of this disc lock, Wang Sheng wouldn't dare to believe that the animal skin that Master Qian left in the eightfold exquisite seal box with the method to unlock the lock was actually incomplete. Fortunately, Wang Sheng was cautious. When he was investigating the formation, he also investigated the internal structure of the disc lock, and only then did he find some clues. Master Qian was sinister enough. Maybe the unlocking method left behind might not be real. Wang Sheng cursed in his heart while carefully calculating in his mind. If it was a lock with electronic chip encryption, Wang Sheng would definitely be helpless. But if it was a purely mechanical lock, as long as he knew the structure, he could always find a way to unlock it according to the structure. On this point, Wang Sheng had absolute confidence. Seeing that Wang Sheng had already turned the first round, everyone's heart was in their throats. Whether it was a mule or a horse, they would soon find out. In a nervous waiting, only the sound of Wang Sheng turning the keyhole could be heard. Finally, the bombardment of the formation that everyone was worried about did not appear. Once again, Wang Sheng exerted force and pressed the thin piece in again. The first lock had been opened. Chapter 15:15. Wang Sheng did not refer to the method of unlocking left by Master Qian at all. He calculated it completely by himself after exploring the internal structure of the disc lock. Thanks to the power of the 7 words formula, Wang Sheng was able to accurately explore the internal structure of the lock with his spiritual energy. Even though there were still 8 legendary elders present, they couldn't use their spiritual qi to such a degree. The group of people was a little incredulous. Everyone looked at Wang Sheng, who continued to explore and open the second lock, and looked at each other. That's it. The first lock was unlocked. Without a key, without any unlocking method, he just put a thin and elastic thing in, and it was opened. Where was the delicate and complex internal structure? Where was the powerful array? Where were they all? Seeing that the second disc also began to rotate, everyone could no longer calm down. If this lock was opened just like that, would everyone in the secret land of the Pavilion of Delicacy still have the face to see others? However, the fact did not change according to the will of the people. In less than 2 minutes, Wang Sheng had rotated the thin piece in place again, and then began to put in another section. The second lock was opened. The third lock was opened. The fourth lock was opened. The 9th lock was opened. Seeing that Wang Sheng's thin piece was put in again, everyone's eyes were no longer shocked and puzzled, but became expectant. The mentality of a real craftsman was absolutely happy to see the past tradition be broken and to pursue a higher and more extreme standard. What Wang Sheng was doing now was to break their old shackles and bring them a breakthrough thinking. If they failed at this time, it would be the greatest pity. Wang Sheng did not let everyone down. It took Wang Sheng a full 5 minutes to complete the last lock. When the light click sounded and the array was still quiet without any outbreak, everyone dared to confirm that Wang Sheng really did not use a key and directly opened the highest and most complex disc lock that the Pavilion of Delicacy regarded as the inheritance. The disc lock then made a series of rhythmic clicking sounds, and the 10 discs began to rotate at different speeds. It was extremely beautiful. After all this was done, the disc lock was completely inserted into the wall. The whole mountain wall began to slowly sink in a regular cracking sound. The highest level secret vault of the Pavilion of Delicacy was opened. Apart from the creaking sound of the mountain wall slowly sinking, there was no other sound. Everyone was a little dumbfounded and excited, but no one made a sound. This was something that had never happened since the establishment of the Linglong Pavilion. The Pavilion Master's inheritance had always been chosen by the previous Pavilion Master. After the approval of the 8 elders, the new Pavilion Master would open the door to the secret vault with the help of the 8 elders. This was a fixed procedure. However, Wang Sheng had completely broken this rule. Not a single elder had given the nod, and he had even killed the previous Pavilion Master. Yet, Wang Sheng had suddenly brought the key to the Pavilion of Delicacy's secret vault to the front of the secret vault. Yet he did not use it. Instead, he had casually used a piece of wood to open the door of the secret vault, which had been passed down for hundreds of years. This was simply too shocking. Now, no one cared about what was in the secret vault, and everyone was looking at Wang Sheng. This person did not let them down, and once again created a miracle. Pavilion Master, a seemingly natural form of address, broke the silence. One of the 8 elders, the one surnamed Li, called out to Wang Sheng. What material was that thing you used to open the secret vault just now? Our Pavilion of Delicacy is known to have all kinds of rare materials, but we have never seen such a thing. Although the main purpose of this sentence was to ask about the material of the cartilage on Wang Sheng's hand, but that natural greeting of Pavilion Master had already exposed his thoughts. He had already acknowledged Wang Sheng's qualification to take over Pavilion of Delicacy. Yes, Pavilion Master, we have never seen that thing before. Another elder followed up, similarly addressing Pavilion Master in an unusually smooth manner. The other elders didn't speak, but their expressions didn't show any resistance. Of course, their gazes were also filled with curiosity. They were all masters of craftsmanship, and this kind of rare material, they were also filled with desire. This, Wang Sheng raised his hand to show everyone that thin piece, and then directly threw it to Elder Li. This is the cartilage of a 13th-stage realm deep-sea frenzied shark that I killed a few days ago. The elasticity is not bad. Uncle Li, take a look and see what else you can use it for. 13th-stage realm demonic beast? Deep-sea frenzied shark? If it was someone from other powerhouses, they might not understand what this concept was, only knowing that 13th-stage realm was definitely very powerful. But this was Delicacy Pavilion's secret zone, and the place where they lived was an island. Didn't they know how terrifying the demonic beasts in the deep sea were? Not to mention other things, just based on the large ship that they had built, it could only move around in the shallow sea area, so the terror of the deep-sea demonic beasts could be seen. Wang Sheng had actually killed a deep-sea frenzied shark? How'd he do it? It was too inconceivable. No one suspected that Wang Sheng would lie. Because after that piece of cartilage flew out from Wang Sheng's hand, without Wang Sheng's spiritual qi to suppress it, it automatically gave off a valiant aura, making everyone within a 200-feet radius feel a chill in their hearts. This was just the bone of a dead frenzied shark. There was such a terrifying aura on it. So how scary would a living frenzied shark be? How did Wang Sheng kill it? Pavilion Master? Only this piece of cartilage? That elder Zhou who displayed the most enmity in his gaze earlier seemed to have naturally started to address him as Pavilion Master. In his expression, it was not more hatred for Wang Sheng, but a kind of desire for new materials that had never been seen before. In essence, Elder Zhou was still a great guru, so he was naturally curious about new materials. In addition, he had already thought it through. He was just a mere legendary master, and together with the other 7, there were only 8 legendary masters in total. Not to mention whether 8 legendary masters could kill a deep-sea frenzied shark in the 13th realm. It was also a problem whether they dared to do so. Such a Wang Sheng was invincible. So why should he make an enemy of Wang Sheng? Since Wang Sheng had opened the secret vault of the Pavilion of Delicacy according to the rules, then he was qualified to be the Pavilion Master, right? Also, Wang Sheng was not stingy. He directly took out more than a dozen teeth of the frenzied shark, as well as several vertebrae and ribs. He put one in each of the elders' hands, including Elder Wang and the others. While distributing, he said, I haven't figured out what to do with these things in a short time, mainly because I don't know how strong these materials are. Since you're all great gurus in this field, please help me figure it out. As long as these elders nodded, Wang Sheng would be the legitimate new pavilion master of the Pavilion of Delicacy, and no one could oppose it. Chapter 1516. This batch of berserk shark bones was simply too shocking, and very quickly, Wang Sheng heard more and more people addressing him as Pavilion Master. No one objected, and even if someone objected, they weren't able to tell the reason. The rules were set a few hundred years ago, and it wasn't possible for it to be designed by Wang Sheng, and it wasn't possible for it to be changed just because of someone's objection. Adding on to the fact that the 13-stage realm demonic beasts of valiant bones, it suppressed some people's last sliver of luck, and everyone willingly addressed him as Pavilion Master. Although Wang Sheng didn't really display his ability to suppress everything, but that fresh deep-sea berserk shark bones had already explained everything. Master Qian and his confidant and friends who wished for Wang Sheng's death the most had already been buried in the 1,000 despair grounds, so there was no need for the others to suppress everything because of the dead Pavilion Master. After all, this was exquisite pavilion and not godly might prison. Everyone here were craftsmen and not killers. This wasn't to say that the people in exquisite pavilion's secret ground were a bunch of vile people who forsook morality and didn't know how to repay kindness. The truth was that exquisite pavilion's many years of secret management actually had a huge drawback. Master Qian wasn't around all year round, and the older people might still have an impression of Pavilion Master Qian, but the younger people, or even the middle-aged people, didn't even have any concept of Pavilion Master Qian. To ask them to fight to the death with the current Pavilion Master who was in line with the rules, and give up everything for a dead previous Pavilion Master who they had no impression of. Couldn't the 8 great elders tell about this drawback of exquisite pavilion? Of course they could, but they had no way to change it. If the Pavilion Master whom the elders recognized didn't nod his head and didn't take the initiative to do these things, just the people in exquisite pavilion's secret ground were totally powerless to change anything. Those Grand Masters of exquisite pavilion in the capital city's heavenly workshop all reaped both fame and fortune, earning a lot of money and at the same time becoming famous. Who wouldn't be envious of them? Relatively speaking, although these people in the secret ground weren't that bad in terms of skills, but for the foundation of exquisite pavilion's coinage, they could only hole up on this small island to contribute. Were they really willing to do so? In this world, if there was one person who could solve this problem of the Linglong Pavilion, then this person must be Wang Sheng. The coinage of the Pavilion of Linglong and the gold notes issued by the Lizhen Fong were definitely of the same origin and complemented each other. If they could be merged, all the people in this secret plane could move to the capital and study those exciting new things together. Pavilion Master, it's better to tidy up the secret vault first. At that moment, Lao Wang had respectfully handed the key to Wang Sheng. At the same time, he did not forget to remind Wang Sheng and the others where this place was. When he spoke, he emphasized the words Pavilion Master and Secret Treasury. Everyone could hear it. In an instant, everyone realized that they were at the entrance of the Pavilion of Delicacy's secret vault. As for the secret vault, only the Pavilion Master and the 8 great elders had access to it. It was the real secret place of the Linglong Pavilion. It was really inappropriate for so many people to gather here. In particular, Wang Sheng had just become the Pavilion Master. No matter what, he should at least have a ceremony, right? The 8 great elders immediately spoke and drove everyone away. Of course, they mainly left the young people who were still excited to see their idol show off their power. The old people stayed, and there were more than 100 of them at the scene. Everyone held the skeleton of the deep-sea mad shark and clicked their tongues in wonder. At the same time, they discussed in low voices how to hold a succession ceremony for Wang Sheng. Pavilion Master, it's better to check the secret vault first and understand the assets of the Pavilion of Delicacy. Elderly smiled and invited Wang Sheng. No one had any objections to Wang Sheng becoming the Pavilion Master. Thus, the secret vault naturally had to be checked by Wang Sheng personally. No need. Wang Sheng smiled and shook his head. I said that I'm not interested in the secret vault. My main goal is to ask everyone to help me build a brand new weapon. Pavilion Master, I'm afraid this is against the rules. Elder Li had a troubled expression. The secret vault is where the skills and precious materials of the Pavilion of Delicacy are stored. No matter what, Pavilion Master has to check it. At the very least, you have to know what exactly the Pavilion of Delicacy has, right? I trust all of you seniors. Wang Sheng smiled and flattered all the elders present. To be able to look after and manage the Pavilion of Delicacy's foundation for decades, there's definitely no problem with the character of all of you seniors. It was just a small compliment, but it made everyone feel proud. Wang Sheng's words had struck a chord in their hearts. There were really people in this world who could understand. Although some of the seniors didn't say anything, their eyes instantly turned red. How could Wang Sheng not understand them? They were old craftsmen who insisted on their principles. They were the same as those old military workers in Wang Sheng's motherland on Earth. They had been quietly contributing to the motherland for decades. That was why they had new skills generation after generation. To be honest, Wang Sheng didn't hate them at all. He only respected them. Since you all think highly of me, I won't stand on ceremony. I will be the Pavilion Master. Wang Sheng cupped one hand in the other before his chest. In the past, the Pavilion of Delicacy needed to make coins secretly to maintain the foundation of the Pavilion of Delicacy. In the future, we don't need to work so hard and be so secretive. This is a business, and we can do it openly. There is no need to hide it. His words made everyone sigh in their hearts. In the past, the Pavilion of Delicacy had to be careful in order to maintain the business of making coins. It was like a thief, afraid that outsiders would learn the skills of making coins one day. But when it came to Duke Changsheng, he was so magnanimous, making people's hearts shake. Yes, it was an open business. What was there to hide? After you make the weapons for me, all of you can move to the capital if you want. Wang Sheng didn't make empty promises to these great masters. Instead, he made a real arrangement. Bring the business of making coins with us. Together with the Lizen workshop, we can do it openly outside the Imperial City. I have already asked Mayor to buy the workshop next to the Celestial Workshop. Wang Sheng continued. If you want, you can all live there. You can live next to those old fellows in the capital. In the future, your descendants will live in the capital. You don't have to stay on this island. I believe that the seniors in the capital will have many things to exchange with you. You will have many new things to do. Thank you, Pavilion Master. What else could they say? He had already thought of and arranged the future for them. It was a road that would bring them both fame and fortune. Who wouldn't be satisfied with an open business and a respectable identity? Since you trust us, Pavilion Master, we won't be unreasonable. Elder Li and the other elders exchanged their opinions. Then they said to Wang Sheng, Pavilion Master, don't worry. The secret vault of the Pavilion of Delicacy will not be missing. In addition, we will take care of your new weapons. Chapter 15-17. After Wang Sheng's words were spread, the entire Ling Long Pavilion's secret zone was in a state of jubilation. These old grandmasters didn't wish for their skills to remain unknown for the rest of their lives on this deserted island. Those younger generations weren't willing to stay on this deserted island for the rest of their lives. When they heard that they could leave for the capital city, all of them cheered. When the new pavilion master took over, naturally there would be a succession ceremony, so it was held together with the celebration. Originally, they were worried that this place wouldn't be easily exposed, so under normal circumstances, everyone would stay in this valley. Since they were going to move away, there was no need to worry about this, and they could celebrate with the entire island. Wang Sheng and everyone went outside, and under everyone's astonished gazes, heavy snow descended from the sky carrying Aki. Everyone then knew how Wang Sheng found this place. There was no need to talk about Aki, a 7-stage realm small killer. These grandmasters didn't even put her in their eyes. On account that she was Wang Sheng's woman, they gave Aki sufficient respect, and that was enough. But heavy snow really made these grandmasters shocked. This was the first time they had the chance to see a legend realm demonic beast. If it was said that when Wang Sheng said that he had killed a 13th stage realm deep-sea mad shark, there might be a little bit of disbelief. But when they saw heavy snow, this 12th stage realm demonic beast, that trace of doubt was completely thrown to the back of their minds. For a person who could use a 12-stage realm demonic beast as a flying mount, what was impossible about killing a 13-stage realm demonic beast? Aki was also rather shocked. She originally thought that there would be a fierce battle when Wang Sheng went down. After all, Wang Sheng had killed Ling Long Pavilion's pavilion master and 50 overtop experts. She had not expected that it would actually end with Wang Sheng taking over Ling Long Pavilion as the new pavilion master. This turn of events made Aki shocked for quite a while. It was until she saw that everyone respectfully addressed Wang Sheng as pavilion master that she was completely relieved. Now that Wang Sheng had become the pavilion master, the pavilion of delicacy had nothing to hide from Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng and Aki also saw the big ship built by the pavilion of delicacy to travel between the sea and the island. Just as Wang Sheng had guessed, they relied on this ship to transport supplies. There was also a cliff on the island that had been hollowed out as a hiding place for the ship. When it was not in use, no one would be able to see it. Even when it was sailing, it would be at night. Originally, the shallow sea region did not have any strong demon beasts, and there were even fewer demon beasts at night. After sailing for so many years, they had yet to encounter any particularly thrilling situations. Looking at the huge ship that was more than 200 feet long, Aki was once again amazed. The ship was so big that it was even bigger than the biggest monster Aki had ever seen. Part of it was even made of metal. It was so incredible. It's so big, how do they build it? Aki had never seen a ship before, but she was good at using ships on the inland rivers. She had once assassinated Wang Sheng on a ship, but the biggest ship she had ever seen was only about 5 feet long. This huge ship was several times longer, which was simply stunning. The elders had expected to see a trace of surprise in Wang Sheng's eyes, but all they saw was calmness. All they heard was Wang Sheng's slight nod in praise. Not bad. More than 200 feet long was only more than 70 meters long. This huge ship was second to none in this world, but it was not strange for Wang Sheng at all. Wang Sheng had seen aircraft carriers that were nearly 300 meters long. A 70-meter-long ship was only a few thousand tons, so it was not worth making a fuss about for Wang Sheng. After bustling for a whole day, the island finally quieted down. Early the next morning, the 8 elders and hundreds of great grandmasters gathered in the usual meeting hall. They could not wait to hear what kind of new weapon Wang Sheng was going to build. All the mad shark bones that Wang Sheng had taken out yesterday had been returned without a single piece missing. In this regard, the great grandmasters of Linglong Pavilion definitely had integrity. They would not take advantage of Wang Sheng in the slightest. As great grandmasters, what materials could they not have? How could they be greedy enough to covet a little of Wang Sheng's things? Based on their little understanding of Wang Sheng, they knew that Wang Sheng was not a stingy person. If he really wanted something, he could just ask, and Wang Sheng would not refuse. I want to make an improved version of the heavy sniper crossbow. Wang Sheng also did not want to waste time. As long as they arrived at the capital, the management of Linglong Pavilion would be handed over to Mei Er. It would definitely be much better than if Wang Sheng did it himself. Now, the most important thing for Wang Sheng was to build a new heavy sniper crossbow. The heavy arrows had to be improved. They had to be made of shark teeth and carved with more powerful formations. The caliber had to be improved. They had to be changed to a larger caliber of at least 30 millimeters. The crossbow arm had to be improved. The material had to be changed to shark bones or ribs. They also had to be carved with more powerful formations. The bowstring had to be changed. The eccentric will had to be changed. All of them had to be replaced with the latest materials. In short, except for the scope, everything else had to be changed. Wang Sheng even drew the design of the new heavy sniper crossbow. This time, Wang Sheng referred to the design of the most powerful crossbow on Earth, the PSETC-15 military crossbow. Other than changing the shooting slide to a gun barrel, everything else was based on this crossbow with the highest rate of fire and the greatest power on Earth. A group of great grandmasters surrounded the table where Wang Sheng had placed the design. They studied the design and then verified it one by one. How strong is the elasticity of the fish bones? An elder asked carefully. I've tried it. A single small fish bone can withstand at least 100,000 kilograms of elasticity. Wang Sheng replied. Change to a bigger fish bone. The crossbow arm can withstand at least 400,000 kilograms. With the addition of the formations, it should be able to reach 500,000 kilograms. Everyone thought about the strength of the mad shark's bones that they had tested yesterday. They all nodded and did not say anything more. The heavy arrows have been thickened so much. They still need to be lengthened. I'm afraid the weight will increase by more than 10 times. Another elder frowned slightly and said, It can be done with the mad shark's teeth, but I'm afraid there is no material in the gun barrel that can withstand such elasticity and the cutting of the mad shark's teeth. Can't we use the spine of the mad shark? Wang Sheng asked. I'm afraid not. The dozen or so great grandmasters shook their heads. Elderly directly answered on behalf of everyone. The mad shark's bones have excellent elasticity. It is definitely the best material we have ever seen. However, its hardness and rigidity are not enough. If we use the spine, we will need to change the gun barrel after only a few shots. This was a problem. Wang Sheng's thinking had been too simple. Fortunately, when Wang Sheng was bargaining with the swordfish demon beast, he had asked for a powerful sea demon's bone. Wang Sheng did not have time to find out what kind of bone it was, nor did he know how strong it was. However, there were so many professionals here. Wouldn't it be a pity not to use it? What about this bone? Wang Sheng directly took out the unknown giant bone. Will this work? Chapter 15:18. The difference between this unknown gigantic bone and the frenzy shark's bone was huge. The moment the frenzy shark's bone left Wang Sheng's hand, without Wang Sheng's spiritual qi to suppress it, it would immediately explode with a strong aura. It was the same no matter who held it in their hands. But when this gigantic bone was taken out, there wasn't any strong aura. Other than the fact that it looked bigger, the other aspects were simply ordinary, without the slightest bit of the legendary material's aura. But the Grandmasters didn't belittle this gigantic bone just because it didn't explode with aura. The thing that Wang Sheng took out, and he even took it out in such a solemn manner, how could it be an ordinary thing? Elderly went forward to receive the gigantic bone. Wang Sheng's hand loosened, and Elderly almost fell onto the ground. If it wasn't for Wang Sheng's strength and the 3 Grandmasters who stretched out their hands in time, this gigantic bone might have crashed onto the ground. What is this? The crowd asked in shock. Other than its shocking weight, this gigantic bone didn't seem to have any outstanding points. The crowd couldn't tell what it was, so they asked Wang Sheng directly. A minimum 14-stage realm demonic beast bone from the sea. Wang Sheng told the truth. It has been soaked in the sea for many years, and its hardness is shocking. I'm not sure if it can be used to make a gun barrel. Yesterday, he had just taken out a 13-stage realm deep-sea mad shark's bone, and now he had taken out a minimum 14-stage realm demonic beast bone. Wang Sheng wasn't going to stop until he had scared these grandmasters of exquisite pavilion. Which grandmaster in the craftsmanship could resist the temptation of such a precious material? Steward Li, who was carrying the gigantic bone in the middle, almost hugged the gigantic bone when he heard that, and pushed away the 2 old fellows who were helping him. Luckily, there were more than 10 of them around, and they didn't flare up. But the 2 who were helping weren't much better. Looking at their looks, if there wasn't anyone around, they would probably have licked the bone. As for those grandmasters who didn't stretch out their hands, their eyes shot out a scorching heat that could probably melt steel. 14-stage realm demonic beast bone. Where did it come from? How could luck explain such a thing? Moreover, Wang Sheng had also said that these bones had been soaked in the sea for who knew how many years. This kind of demonic beast lived in the dead zone. How could it be possible without being thousands of feet deep in the sea? Now, everyone was a little numb. Wang Sheng could even take out a 14-stage realm demonic beast bone. So in future, if you were to take out something that they could not imagine, it wouldn't be surprising at all. No wonder Wang Sheng didn't even take a look at the secret vault of the Pavilion of Delicacy. Just the bones of the deep-sea mad shark, and this one were probably several times more precious than the entire secret vault of the Pavilion of Delicacy. I don't know how hard this thing is. You guys are professionals. Try it and see if it works. Wang Sheng directly handed the thing to everyone and let them test it. A legendary material, Elder Li and the rest used their fastest speed to test the series of attributes of that huge bone, and in the end, they came up with a conclusion. There was no problem at all, and it was more than enough to make a gun barrel. Under Wang Sheng's nod, they used the hardest material in the secret vault, as well as various tools. After a series of tests, the huge bone was still a complete huge bone, and there wasn't a single trace of it left behind. The degree of hardness had exceeded everyone's imagination. For an entire 3 days, a group of grandmasters whose average age was more than 60 years old acted as though they had seen the most interesting toy. All of them surrounded that huge bone and tried one method after another. In the end, they could only helplessly look for Wang Sheng. There's no way to process it. Wang Sheng was stunned. He had always been thinking of finding the best material to strengthen the power of the heavy sniper crossbow, but he had not expected that the material he found was too hard, so hard that no tools were able to cut it. If he wanted to polish it into a high-precision gun barrel, without any tools, it was a complete joke. The group of grandmasters surrounded Wang Sheng and waited for him to think of a solution. Wang Sheng had always been a person who could create miracles, whether it was the things they had heard of or the things they had seen with their own eyes. When faced with such a difficult problem, they collectively couldn't think of a solution. Perhaps Wang Sheng could give them the most perfect solution. Try using the mad shark's teeth. Wang Sheng immediately suggested a solution. The mad shark's teeth were extremely sharp and could be used as arrowheads for heavy arrows. The current experts were simply invincible. With such sharp teeth, Wang Sheng didn't mind spending a few tools to process the huge bone. After all, there were hundreds of those teeth, enough for Wang Sheng to make thousands of arrowheads. As soon as Wang Sheng said this, the group of grandmasters immediately scattered and ran off to experiment. Wang Sheng could only be left alone. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he called out to the scattered grandmasters. If you can't do it, then carve some formations on the mad shark's teeth. Only a few of them responded, but not a single one turned around to look at him. Wang Sheng speechlessly shook his head at these grandmasters. These guys could become great grandmasters. As long as they encountered something related to their skills, they would all become like this. The great grandmasters in the capital were the same. Each of them was like an old child. Originally, there was a suggestion to carve the mad shark's teeth first, but Wang Sheng felt that this was superfluous. Didn't those great grandmasters know that to do a good job, one must first sharpen the tools? It just so happened that after the mad shark's teeth were made, Wang Sheng could take a set first. The swordfish's kiss sword and Aki's dagger, Wang Sheng planned to carve them himself. The entire Linglong Pavilion's secret island was mobilized. All the great grandmasters who could help work together. Even the assistants were great grandmasters. Everyone was in a state of extreme excitement. As for the young people, they began to pack up their belongings and prepare to move as a whole. Once they thought that they could go to the bustling capital and not be trapped in a corner, the young people were equally excited. They chatted happily while working, looking forward to the bustling life in the capital. While waiting, Aki came looking for him. Although these days it was Aki who accompanied Wang Sheng every day, accompanying Wang Sheng to eat, accompanying Wang Sheng to stay, and accompanying him to sleep, but this time she seemed to be somewhat confused. Duke, why don't people in the past think that there's a higher realm above the 9th degree realm? Aki had some insights in the process of cultivation and at the same time had some doubts. So she came to find Wang Sheng to enlighten and consult. She had always been unable to understand this point. No matter what, she couldn't understand it. Similarly, there were a few great grandmasters in other fields who also couldn't understand it. For example, those who made the bowstring. It just happened that they heard Aki's question and stopped what they were doing, wanted to listen to Wang Sheng's explanation. They had long been stuck in the 9th degree realm and were unable to advance. If they listened to Wang Sheng's words, perhaps there might be an opportunity to break through. That's normal. Wang Sheng laughed as he opened his mouth to point out. Chapter 1519. Normal. Aki was stunned. How could this be normal? There had been no breakthroughs for hundreds and thousands of years. It was only after Wang Sheng's arrival that there was a big breakthrough. Was this normal? The great grandmasters who were listening at the side had the same expression. How could this be normal? Why do we think of using the spirit to cultivate? Wang Sheng smiled and explained, someone must have intentionally or unintentionally touched the spirit, and slowly came up with the concept of spirit cultivation. Then, after generations of experts and masters supplemented and perfected it, it became the current cultivation system. Everyone nodded. That was basically the process. Perhaps Wang Sheng had simplified it a little, but the general direction was right. So, when people cultivate, they rely on observing the demonic beasts around us, and rely on reference to the outside world to proceed. Wang Sheng continued, at that time, people see the demonic beasts and the strength of the demonic beasts they have fought. They will believe that their spirit cultivation is also strong. Aki listened as if she understood and didn't understand at the same time. There was a trace of inspiration that had jumped out, but she couldn't grasp it. It was very uncomfortable. Generation after generation of cultivation experts. The strongest demonic beast that we have seen on land is only at the peak of the 9th stage. Wang Sheng smiled and said the answer he thought in his heart. So, people firmly believe that the peak of human cultivation is the peak of the demonic beasts, which is the original legendary realm, the peak of the 9th stage. Humans are actually the best at observing and learning from the outside world. Wang Sheng looked at Aki's eyes and said very seriously, but sometimes this kind of observation and learning has certain limitations. It can only be limited to the framework of what you see, and there is no way to jump out of it in a short period of time. The strongest demonic beasts people see on land are at the 9th stage, so generation after generation of experts think that the peak of cultivation is the peak of the 9th stage. The concept of generation after generation of experts being passed down to the next generation made the later generations think so and believe deeply. Wang Sheng saw that Aki seemed to have understood something. He smiled and continued, but you also know that for many years, many people did not really go deep into the sea to see the monsters in the sea. Many people, including Aki, suddenly understood. Because most people had only seen the strongest 9th stage realm demonic beasts on land. They thought that the end of cultivation was the 9th stage realm. The sea was very dangerous, and those who tried to go deeper had all died. No more news had spread. That was why no one knew that there were powerful demonic beasts which had surpassed the 9th stage realm in the sea. Lin Xiu's era still thought that the 9th stage realm was the ultimate realm, and Lin Xiu was enlightened by Wang Sheng, hence she knew that there was an even higher realm above, but as for what it was exactly, she didn't know since she hadn't gone out to sea. Because of this, Lin made 24 valleys in the land of Thousand Despair and let the masters of the major families help Lin Xiu verify her future cultivation direction. The super strong demonic beasts in the land of Thousand Despair, heavy snow, and other demonic beasts which had surpassed the 9th stage realm broke through under the stimulation of Lin Xiu's aura, including old Taoist Ling Su, Uncle Li Luan, Ho Ling and the others who had already broken through to the peak of the 9th stage realm were all related to the land of Thousand Despair. In fact, they had never gone deep into the sea before. Bao Qing Yutang and Zhu Xingxing might have let a group of people go deep into the sea, but their luck was probably good and they didn't meet any super strong demonic beasts. They definitely didn't dare to go into the water easily. Not everyone had the courage to be like Wang Sheng, an old Taoist, and jump into the sea to observe the hundreds of millions of 5th and 6th stage realm fishes. The Grandmasters in Exquisite Pavilion's secret land were the same. If it wasn't for the news from the capital that someone had broken through the 9th stage realm and entered the legendary realm, they didn't dare to believe that the end of cultivation wasn't the 9th stage realm. Although they lived by the sea, they also hadn't seen a strong sea demon. This was also the reason why, other than old Taoist Ling Su and Wang Sheng, the others who wanted to break through to the legendary realm could only rely on the Grandmaster's concert. Deep in their hearts, they still didn't have an unwavering belief in this natural phenomenon. Before the 13th stage realm, old Taoist Ling Su, Uncle Li Luwen, Ling and the others were only stimulated by the aura of the Land of Thousand Despair. But later old Taoist Ling Su and Wang Sheng had seen the battle of the 14th stage realm demonic beasts with their own eyes. From the bottom of their hearts, they firmly believed that such a strong species existed in the natural world, so they didn't need any external help to advance. This is also what I said to old Taoists in the past. Humans follow the laws of the earth, the laws of heaven, the laws of Tao, the laws of nature. Finally, Wang Sheng said his own conclusion. No matter how many generations of predecessors have been strengthening the concept that the 9th stage realm is the pinnacle of cultivation, when you really see an extraordinary demonic beast, this shackle will be broken by itself. Aki, you and I have seen those strong demonic beasts on the sea, right? Aki had completely understood. The doubts in her heart had long disappeared, and she nodded her head like a chick pecking rice. On the back of the heavy snow, she had not only seen them, but also almost been killed. Just the aura of a strong demonic beast was enough to make her almost suffocate. She had seen more than one or two of them. Since demonic beasts could be so strong that it surpassed common sense, why couldn't human cultivators? Tao follows the laws of nature. Tao follows the laws of nature. Aki was about to speak when she suddenly saw Wang Sheng making a shushing gesture. In the midst of her shock, Aki saw that the few grandmasters were muttering the words, Tao follows the laws of nature. It was obvious that they had fallen into a kind of epiphany. As the few grandmasters were muttering, their faces revealed a kind of blissful expression as if they had seen through everything. In just less than half an instance's time, a strong aura appeared on one of the grandmasters. In an instant, a spiritual energy was formed in the sky, crazily gathering in this direction. That was not all. Just as that grandmaster triggered the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to temper his body, the other grandmaster next to him also entered the same state. With the first one, there was a second one. In less than 20 minutes, a total of 4 people had entered the state of advancement because of the first one. The 5 of them didn't listen to the grandmaster's concert at all, but in front of Wang Sheng, Aki, and the other grandmasters, they collectively entered the state of advancement, forming a large mass of spiritual energy. With such a huge commotion, the entire island was alarmed. Countless people gathered here. Finally, they knew that they couldn't be disturbed during advancement, so no one made any big movements. After gathering around, they quietly observed the ceremony and waited for the advancement to be completed. Just as everyone was feeling envious and confused, Aki, who was next to Wang Sheng, seemed to be very fascinated. Her body naturally emitted an aura, and she easily joined the army of advancement. The large mass of spiritual energy became a bit bigger. Chapter 15:20. Wang Sheng was not surprised by Aki's advancement. Previously, she had been stuck at the peak of the 6th stage for many years and was unable to advance. However, the accumulation during this period of time was not in vain. She had been continuously consolidating her foundation. Once she met Wang Sheng's help, she had immediately advanced to the 7th stage. After reaching the 7th stage, she actually still had some accumulation. It was just that she had suffered a heavy injury previously and lost a portion of it when she was recovering. However, after her recovery, the lowest quality fish that she and Wang Sheng ate on the island was legendary realm. Later on, they even had the shark fin of the deep-sea mad shark as nourishment. That was a demonic beast of the 13th stage. During this period of time, they had also accumulated to the verge of advancement. The white tiger's direction that Wang Sheng had told her was more of a legend. Although Aki trusted Wang Sheng, she still did not dare to take the legend seriously. However, after seeing the truly powerful demonic beasts in the sea, in addition to Wang Sheng's explanation, her doubts were completely dispelled. Under the impetus of the 5 great grandmasters advancing to the legendary realm, they naturally entered the advancement process. Even the 5 Grandmaster-level martial Grandmasters had been accumulating their strength for many years. After Wang Sheng pointed it out, they suddenly gained confidence and naturally entered a state of advancement. Looking at the people advancing, Wang Sheng's heart was also a ball of realization. In fact, whatever spirit, whatever legend, it was all fake. The most important thing was still super strong confidence, firmly believing that there was no limit to cultivation in this world. This was the basis of all advancement. The people who had just arrived on the island did not know the reason. However, at this time, no one dared to ask. They could only watch the ceremony and wait until the advancement was completed. The sudden formation of a large mass of spiritual energy attracted heavy snow. It was very happy and directly flew into the large mass of spiritual energy in the sky. It hovered and glided, happily absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth that was many times larger than usual. Fortunately, this was the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Above the sea, it was endless and did not have any impact on the 6 people who were advancing below. 3.5 days later, when everyone had completed their advancement, everyone heaved a sigh of relief and began to ask what had happened. When the group of 9th Stage Realm Senior Grandmasters heard their old friend's narration of Wang Sheng's words, and that sentence, man follows earth, earth follows heaven, heaven follows Tao, Tao follows nature, all of them were deep in thought. Aki's question to untie the knot in her heart made Wang Sheng reply with a sentence from Tao Te Ching. The consequence of this was that on the 2nd day, after Aki and the others advanced at the same time, another 13 Grandmasters who were stuck in the 9th Stage Realm Peak spontaneously comprehended and advanced. 8 of the elders were among them. No wonder they could become elders. They were quite capable. For the next few days, the heaven and earth spiritual chi on the island was as dense as thick sugar water. Regardless of whether it was the heavy snow in the sky or the people on the ground, they were all immersed in the spiritual chi and nourished themselves. Now everyone in Exquisite Pavilion's secret zone was convinced by Wang Sheng. He had only been here for a few days, and he had already created so many good things. If they were to follow Wang Sheng frequently, who knew how many benefits there would be in future? 8 great clans people were really silly. They didn't want to rope in this kind of expert, but instead wanted to go against him. Were their higher-ups' brains mush? The Grandmaster's advancement was only beneficial to Wang Sheng and not detrimental. The higher their cultivation, the easier it was to manufacture the heavy sniper crossbows. Although they had delayed for 10 days, but Wang Sheng's confidence towards the heavy sniper crossbows had increased. This self-satisfied state had only lasted for 2 days when he received another piece of bad news. Even the tools made from shark's teeth can't do it. Wang Sheng looked at the group of dejected Grandmasters and couldn't help but widen his eyes. Can't break it. Elderly shook his head with a difficult expression. He only used 3 of himself to answer Wang Sheng's question. As he spoke, he handed over the tools they had made from shark's teeth. Wang Sheng took them speechlessly and shook his head after a glance. Not to mention that the giant bone couldn't be processed. Even the shark's teeth couldn't be cut very well. Elderly gave Wang Sheng a whole tooth and chose the thinnest one from a large pile of teeth. The formation couldn't be directly carved on the teeth, but was drawn with a layer of unknown material. After the spiritual energy was injected, the sharp part of the formation would be concentrated on the tip of the teeth, and it would work together with the sharpness of the shark's teeth. But even so, they couldn't cut even the slightest mark on the giant bone. Looking at the clean and smooth giant bone, Wang Sheng felt like he had shot himself in the foot. He got the strongest material, but couldn't process it? Wasn't this like entering a treasure mountain and returning empty-handed? How could Wang Sheng possibly allow such a situation to happen? Improving the heavy sniper crossbow was to be able to deal with stronger enemies and to help Lin Xiao. In order to let Lin Xiao not have to fight against the whole world alone, no matter what price he had to pay, Wang Sheng had to complete it. What if we use this? Wang Sheng directly took out the 5 feet long swordfish long kiss. This long kiss was the swordfish demonic beast's strongest weapon, and it itself was a high-level demonic beast body. adding on to the fact that there was an almost undying swordfish soul in it. Perhaps there was a way? What is this? Seeing Wang Sheng take out a bone, which they had never seen before, the crowd didn't have any astonishment at all as they asked calmly. Anyone who had been continuously taken out by Wang Sheng with a huge pile of legendary materials after a few times would also get used to it. It could be the 13th-stage Realm Peak Swordfish Demonic Beast's long kiss. Wang Sheng explained to the crowd. It was very obvious that Wang Sheng's explanation was futile and pale. How would the great grandmasters who had not dived at least 100 meters into the ocean know what a swordfish was? Even the deep-sea frenzied sharks, because of the word shark, they had seen those small sharks in the shallow sea before they knew what it was. Swordfish? What was that? Let's try it first. Elderly wasn't courteous at all. When they were working, they never cared about these things. He directly stretched out his hand and was about to take the long kiss. Be careful. Wang Sheng reminded him to be careful and then let go. The moment Wang Sheng's hand left the long kiss, Elderly felt his own soul world being heavily hit. An incomparably fierce, sword-like, demonic beast soul appeared in his own soul world and was about to launch an attack. Elderly reacted in time and immediately threw the long kiss away. At the same time, he quickly retreated. In the next moment, the swordfish soul immediately returned to the long kiss. Elderly had already bounced to the back and knocked down at least 4 great grandmasters before he climbed back up. Everyone was shocked. If they hadn't been watching carefully from his side, they would have thought that it was Wang Sheng who attacked Elderly. Is that thing the swordfish? Elderly stood up with lingering fear and asked Wang Sheng in a daze. Chapter 1521. Elderly's words had no head or tail, and other than Wang Sheng, no one else knew what he meant. The group of people looked at Elderly and were at a loss. What was he talking about? Wang Sheng nodded his head as he felt it was strange in his heart. When Wang Sheng swallowed the 14th stage Realm King Cuttlefish's source spirit, it wasn't this exaggerated right. But the swordfish source spirit in the long kiss was indeed different from other source spirits. Perhaps it was because the swordfish had died a natural death and was not killed, coupled with the fact that it had been nurtured in his body all this time. The swordfish's intelligence definitely surpassed any other source soul that Wang Sheng had ever seen. Even the 14th stage Realm King Cuttlefish's source spirit was not that agile. A source spirit that knew fear and could escape was obviously of a higher level than a source spirit that only knew to walk down a dark road. Although the level might be a little lower, but in some areas, the difference was like heaven and earth. Wang Sheng even suspected that the swordfish source spirit would not obediently attach itself to someone's source spirit space to help that person cultivate. After that fellow swallowed other people's source spirits, it would only return to the long kiss to recuperate. While Wang Sheng was pondering, Elderly had already narrated what had just happened to the others. Everyone listened in amazement, and at the same time, through Elder Lee's explanation and gestures, they knew what the swordfish looked like. The bones still contained the original demonic beast's source spirit. This was a strange story that they had never heard before. Everyone stared at the long kiss in Wang Sheng's hands, wishing they could immediately take it to study it and see what was so special about it. Unfortunately, everyone knew their own limits. Everyone's cultivation was similar, and they had just advanced to the legendary realm. If Elderly could not touch it, then they definitely could not. Owner, it's better if you personally come and try it. Elderly slowly recovered and was no longer that shocked. He looked at the long kiss in Wang Sheng's hands with hot eyes and said with a bitter smile, Wang Sheng really had an endless supply of good things. But he casually took one out, and they did not even have the qualifications to take it. This was simply depressing. Wang Sheng didn't refuse. He hugged her and kissed her as they went to the place where the giant bone was placed. The giant bone had been fixed to a metal shelf against the wall. It was very stable. Wang Sheng looked at it, pushed it, and nodded. The tip of the long muzzle directly pressed against the joint of the giant bone. Wang Sheng exerted force and stabbed into the giant bone. However, the giant skeleton didn't seem to be hurt at all. On the contrary, Wang Sheng's strength was so great that the metal shelf was bent and embedded into the wall behind it. Sigh. When the crowd saw this result, they all sighed in unison. The disappointment in their hearts was clearly expressed in their words. The legendary material was right in front of them, but they had no way to deal with it. For these great grandmasters, it was really a kind of torture. Again, Wang Sheng was not discouraged. He changed the position of the tip of his long kiss and pressed it against her again. When he exerted force just now, Wang Sheng only used his own strength and relied on the material of the long kiss. This time, when he made his move, Wang Sheng directly began to input a large amount of spiritual energy. At the same time, a thought of the 7-word formula was transmitted into the long kiss. Help. Feed you spiritual energy. Otherwise, the meaning of the threat was very obvious. The swordfish original spirit might really be old and smart. It didn't dare to have the slightest bit of disobedience. It obediently used Wang Sheng's spiritual energy to launch its most powerful instinctive attack. Kacha. Under the instinctive attack of Wang Sheng's spiritual energy and the swordfish original spirit, the sharp tip of the long kiss stabbed into the giant bone's joint with difficulty. The cone-shaped long kiss was sharp at the front, but it became bigger and bigger at the back. As Wang Sheng stabbed in, the giant bone finally cracked under the horizontal pressure. The eyes of the surrounding great grandmasters were all stunned. They had used all the materials in the exquisite pavilion's secret warehouse to test this giant bone for so many days, but it was cracked by Wang Sheng's swordfish long kiss. When Wang Sheng forcefully stabbed in again, the crack became bigger and bigger. Finally, with a kacha sound, the bone joint had been pried out by Wang Sheng, and a 2-foot-long bone plate had been pried out by Wang Sheng. Without waiting for Wang Sheng to see what that bone plate looked like, the surrounding great grandmasters had already rushed forward with cheers. Elder Li's movements were the fastest. He almost flew over and snatched that bone plate, holding in his arms and not letting go. The surrounding great grandmasters directly pushed Wang Sheng outside. They didn't care if he was the pavilion master of the exquisite pavilion or Duke Changsheng. At this time, even if the Emperor of Heaven came, he wouldn't look as good as this bone plate. Basically, at this point, Wang Sheng was completely relieved. Taking a few steps back, Wang Sheng didn't fight with those great grandmasters. He began to ponder over the swordfish original spirit. With the help of a sword spirit and without the help of a sword spirit, the effects were as different as heaven and earth. When he was forging the sword, Wang Sheng had to be careful and protect the swordfish original spirit. As for the fact that normal people couldn't use it, even a legendary expert like Elder Li couldn't resist the swordfish original spirit's resistance. Wang Sheng didn't care at all. This was for Lin Xiu to use. No matter how fierce the swordfish original spirit was, could it play any tricks in Lin Xiu's hands? If Wang Sheng could make it obediently listen to him, then there was no need to mention Lin Xiu. Finally, a group of great grandmasters came to some conclusions after studying the bone plate and the huge broken bone. Only then did they remember that the true hero, Wang Sheng, had been thrown to the back of their minds. Then, they collectively came to Wang Sheng's side and begged him to continue. However, Wang Sheng had no intention of dismantling the entire giant bone without any planning or design. That would be too wasteful, a waste of God's gifts. Moreover, if Wang Sheng had to do it himself every time, then the efficiency would be too low. If a worker wanted to do a good job, he must first sharpen his tools. It was still the same sentence. If he wanted to cut the giant bone, he needed the right tools. But now only Wang Sheng's swordfish original spirit could do it. What else could he do? Without waiting for the great grandmasters to bring it up, Wang Sheng took the initiative to think of a way. The hardest substance on earth was a diamond. But how is a diamond cut? It seemed that only diamonds could be used to cut diamonds, right? Then this giant bone. Could he use tools made from the giant bone to polish it? That piece of bone plate could be made into several sets of suitable tools. Wang Sheng could also have a set for himself. Once this method was mentioned, everyone was instantly excited. That's right. No matter how hard the giant bone was, it couldn't be harder than its own body, right? Using the giant bone to cut the giant bone. This was simply the most wonderful idea. Moreover, this method didn't need to trouble Wang Sheng for everything. Wouldn't it show their skill? The group of great grandmasters excitedly began to design the tools. The 2-foot-long bone plate had a thickness of 3 inches. If it was compact enough, it would be enough to make many tools. After the design was done, it was still Wang Sheng who held the long kiss and cut out the bone pieces of approximate size bit by bit. Wang Sheng did not need to participate in the next step. They would naturally use the broken bones to polish the bone pieces, and then use the bone tools to process the giant bone. Chapter 1522. It had to be said that the martial grandmasters, who were bursting with enthusiasm, were very efficient. 3 days later, the giant bone tools had been completely forged, and the arrays on the tools had been set up. It could be said that these were the best sets of tools in the Linglong Pavilion, or even in the entire human world. It had to be known that the grandmasters would grind these tools in the beginning when they were trimming the details. All the tools had been polished bit by bit. Fortunately, these martial grandmasters were really patient and skilled. When a set of tools that Wang Sheng wanted was handed to Wang Sheng, even Wang Sheng, who had seen the exquisite tools of modern society, couldn't help but be amazed. All the tools had been polished smooth and smooth. When he held them in his hands, there was a natural cooling sensation and an indescribable sense of comfort. Exquisite array patterns were carved on them, and the amplification array on them could be activated by injecting spiritual energy at any time. There was no need to worry about the sharpness and hardness of the tools. Even without the amplification of the array, the giant bone tool's hardness and sharpness would still leave others in the dust. Wang Sheng took a saw blade and tested it on the swordfish's long tongue. Without activating the array, he would need about 5,000 kilograms of force to saw the uneven base of the swordfish's long tongue. If he activated the array, he would only need a few hundred kilograms of force. This was no problem for the martial grandmasters who were qualified to use these tools. With these tools, the production of the heavy sniper crossbow could be sped up a lot. Apart from the final assembly, which required Wang Sheng's strength, Wang Sheng didn't need to worry about the production of the other parts. If so many martial grandmasters made a mistake, they would be so ashamed that they would jump into the sea. Wang Sheng finally had time to slowly carve the swordfish's long tongue. After looking at the martial grandmaster's meticulous carving, Wang Sheng also felt a little embarrassed. It was a waste to use such a big swordfish's long tongue to make a long sword, a hairpin, and 2 daggers. They could make more. Before making the weapons, Wang Sheng had specially asked Aki if she wanted to use the swordfish's long tongue or the giant bone to make the weapons. The giant bone was obviously the best material at the moment, while the swordfish's long snout was slightly inferior. Originally, Wang Sheng thought that Aki would choose the giant bone, but in the end, Aki chose the swordfish kiss. Why? Wang Sheng couldn't understand Aki's choice. There was obviously a better one, so why did she choose the second best? Because the swordfish dagger was forged by you, and the one over there isn't. Aki revealed the most important reason for her choice without hesitation. The female assassin had never shown her feelings so obviously. When she said this, she kept her head down, and her face was as red as the sunset. I can also take a piece of the giant bone and help you carve it. Wang Sheng smiled and said to Aki, "That's different." Aki raised her head, not bothering to hide the blush on her cheeks. Many people can forge the giant bone, but only you can forge the swordfish dagger. It's more unique than any other weapon. Just for this? Wang Sheng was a careless special forces soldier, so he obviously couldn't understand Aki's thoughts. His face was filled with disbelief as he asked, "The giant bone weapon is more powerful, so it suits you better." Wang Sheng's expression made Aki want to fiercely kick him. "What do you mean just for this? This is very important, okay? It's true that he was an assassin, but couldn't he have a bit of female feelings in his heart? The power is also greater than the swordfish dagger." In the end, Aki didn't kick Wang Sheng. She stared at Wang Sheng and said, "You couldn't have forgotten how the giant bone tool came about, right? The giant bone tool was naturally made from the swordfish's kiss. Wang Sheng instantly woke up. He had actually forgotten about this. He instinctively compared the materials of the two sides, but he forgot that the swordfish's kiss also had a swordfish source spirit. As long as that source spirit was there, the swordfish's kiss was like it had a life of its own. It was much stronger than the dead giant bone. But the problem was, even if Lin Xiao didn't need the swordfish source spirit to help her increase her power, could Aki withstand the swordfish source spirit's source spirit attack in her source spirit space? If this was really the case, perhaps when Aki used the dagger, she would be like Rosa in the past. Her source spirit would be swallowed by the stronger swordfish source spirit and become nourishment for the swordfish source spirit. This situation was something Wang Sheng didn't want to see, but giving Aki 2 daggers without a source spirit seemed to not be enough. This made Wang Sheng fall into deep thought. Aki didn't know what Wang Sheng was thinking. She obediently closed her mouth and accompanied Wang Sheng's side. While waiting, she was also protecting Wang Sheng, not letting anyone disturb him. The swordfish source spirit was too strong, too smart, to the point that Aki couldn't control it all. Could she make the swordfish source spirit not be so strong for a while? Wang Sheng suddenly thought of his 2048 little Tao Dai, and his mind suddenly became clear. Got it. His own source spirit could be separated. So why couldn't the swordfish source spirit? As long as the separated part was weak enough, it wouldn't cause harm to Aki, but it could still be the same as the swordfish source spirit. It could freely enter and exit Aki's source spirit space. As long as Aki used her own spiritual energy to nourish her source spirit space, when the 2 swordfish source spirits attached to the daggers grew up again, this dagger would become an incomparably powerful weapon. Moreover, it would be Aki's exclusive weapon. This was a true exclusive weapon. It could suppress an expert with a swordfish source spirit that was stronger than Aki. Although it could be used, it wouldn't be able to display its full power. Only Achi could truly unleash the greatest power. Was there a more suitable and better exclusive weapon than this? With the size of the swordfish, it was enough to make 3 long swords. 1 for Lin Xiao, 1 for Song Yin, and 1 for Rosa. For daggers could be made. 2 for Aki, 1 for Mei and 1 for Wang Sheng. He could make it into a tiger fang saber. Of course, there was enough hairpins that belonged to Lin Xiao. The swordfish source spirit would be separated into several parts by Wang Sheng, but the main part would not be separated. It would keep the swordfish source spirit's consciousness. At that time, the swordfish source spirit could follow Wang Sheng or Lin Xiao. Everyone would have their own exclusive weapon, so it would be a good way to distribute it, wouldn't it? Let's do it like this. Wang Sheng slapped his fist against the palm of his other hand. He stood up and asked the surprised Aki beside him, "What kind of dagger do you want? Draw it out, and I'll make it for you." While talking to Aki, Wang Sheng's 7-word secret had already sent his thoughts into the swordfish source spirit, discussing it with the swordfish source spirit. "I'll split off a few unconscious source spirits from your body. How about it?" Chapter 1523. Wang Sheng also began to design. Then he began to draw, and finally he began to make a move. The swordfish source spirit seemed to be very clear about its position. It was meat on someone's chopping block. How could it dare to say no? Aki couldn't say what kind of dagger she liked the most. She had been trained since she was young to use anything that could kill people. She didn't have a fixed weapon. For a long time, Aki was just a poor person. She could only buy common goods. It was only after she followed Wang Sheng that she had the chance to use quality goods. Letting Aki design now was clearly not realistic. After Wang Sheng understood the situation, he took the initiative to help Aki design too. They were the 10 great military sabers he had collected on Earth. Adding in his own tiger's fang and the one for Mei, he designed a total of 4 sabers. The long sword was the same. Wang Sheng chose the ones that had left a deep impression in his memory and placed them all into the 5-foot-long sword. After he felt that he had a draft in his mind, he let the small person in his source spirit space help him build the model. After everything was completed, Wang Sheng thoroughly checked that there were no mistakes before he began to make a move. Unlike those great grandmasters who used various methods of cutting, drilling, and grinding, Wang Sheng's technique was carving. All of these weapons, Wang Sheng treated them as a piece of sculpture. He directly used a hammer and chisel, carefully carving them bit by bit. The experience gained from carving the flower-blossoming heart crafting ball was used on this. Even when the great grandmasters on the island heard that Wang Sheng had begun to carve, they all came over to observe. Especially the ones that were related to carving, they all stayed behind and didn't leave. Wang Sheng was still young, but his ingenious ideas in the art of carving were admirable. Perhaps Wang Sheng wasn't a match for the old grandmasters in terms of basic skills, but the works he made would definitely make people's eyes light up. Seeing Wang Sheng actually use a carving technique to carve weapons, everyone was speechless. But thinking about it, it was a material that could break through the giant bone. How else could it be used? This was good as well. It could be formed in one piece, and there was no need to think about assembling it. It was convenient. Wang Sheng also asked a few array formation grandmasters to help design a soul-nurturing array on each of the weapons. The purpose was, of course, to nourish the soul inside to the greatest extent and increase the efficiency of absorbing spiritual energy. The people on the island were working in full swing, and news from the outside rarely came in. Ever since the death of House Master Qian, there was basically no news from the outside. At least he didn't have to worry about the messy things outside. He just had to focus on making Wang Sheng's weapon first. After a whole month and a half, under the joint efforts of over 100 great grandmasters, all the components of the heavy sniper crossbow were finally completed. 1.5 months might not seem like a long time, but from the selection of materials to the design to the meticulous polishing, every process required several times or even dozens of times more manpower than usual. It was also here that even the assistants were great grandmasters. Grandmaster juniors did not have the qualifications to act. However, the juniors at the grandmaster level were qualified to observe while they were working. The martial grandmasters and grandmasters had all benefited greatly from the entire forging process. All the components had been completed, and they were only waiting for the final assembly. In this aspect, they still needed Wang Sheng's help. Not to mention anything else, just the step of winding the bowstring. Without Wang Sheng's strength, all these great grandmasters could only look on and sigh. The required strength exceeded 200,000 pounds. It was too powerful. Wang Sheng did not pass on this responsibility. He followed the guidance of the great grandmasters and began to assemble it bit by bit. This was something designed by Wang Sheng to begin with. Thanks to Wang Sheng's efforts in creating precision measuring instruments, the precision of the parts he produced was simply breathtaking. When it was time to wind the bowstring, even Wang Sheng needed the help of a lever to complete this step. The assembled heavy sniper crossbow was placed calmly on the table, but it emitted a terrifying aura. It was originally a military crossbow design, so the design looked somewhat sinister. In addition to the aura released by the various materials, people with low cultivation would feel extremely uncomfortable and even disgusted if they were within 2 meters of it. However, this made the participating great grandmasters very proud. This was the true pinnacle of weapons. Compared to this heavy sniper crossbow, the other weapons made before were simply children's toys. The crossbow's frame and barrel were all made from giant bones. Normal materials would not be able to withstand such a strong pulling force. The 2 double-layer crossbow arms were made from the 4 largest fish bones. The bowstring was also at least 10 times stronger than the previous bowstring. The various fasteners were also made from giant bones. It could be said that there was currently no better material in the world than this. The overall craftsmanship was exceptional. The areas that should be smooth were smeared with oil, and the areas that should have friction were exquisitely carved with formation patterns. At the same time, it served as a non-slip design. Perfectly straight lines, comfortable curves, and beautiful triangles were all integrated. Even if it was not used to kill people, it would still be a top-notch work of art. The first batch of heavy arrows was also made. There were 20 of them, made from a deep-sea mad shark's tooth. They were arranged neatly and looked like a work of art. This batch of teeth arrows had a diameter of 30 millimeters and beautiful rotating patterns were carved on them. At the same time, there was an explosive formation that was 10 times stronger than the previous heavy arrows. The length was also about 3 times longer than the previous ones, and the weight was about 20 times heavier. When placed there, it was simply like a child's arm. Just by looking at the size, one could imagine what it would feel like to hit a human body. This time, Wang Sheng had also chosen to make heavy arrows from the mad shark's tooth by accident. The mad shark's bones were extremely flexible, and even its teeth were more flexible than the steel-heavy arrows. This allowed the teeth arrows to fit more closely to the gun barrel, bringing about higher shooting accuracy. Everyone gathered around the table in the middle, looking at the heavy sniper crossbow and the teeth arrows on it. This was the product of their combined efforts. It was also the most powerful long-range weapon they had ever heard of or seen so far. The product, which was as perfect as a work of art, made everyone feel a sense of pride from the bottom of their hearts. This was our work. The Pavilion of Delicacy could still give a prize for the first version of the heavy sniper crossbow. The raw materials and the crafting costs totaled 50 million gold coins. However, now that everyone was facing this brand new heavy sniper crossbow, they did not know how to set a price. What about the crafting costs of more than 100 great grandmasters? What about the price of the legendary raw materials? What about Wang Sheng's genius design? Pavilion Master, try its power. The great grandmaster who had personally made the gun barrel reminded Wang Sheng with a face full of expectation. Chapter 1524. Once the suggestion was made, everyone agreed. The heavy sniper crossbow looked like a work of art, but it was still a weapon used to kill people. The most important thing about a weapon was its power, so everyone was looking forward to it. Wang Sheng readily accepted the suggestion and went forward to hold the heavy sniper crossbow in his hand. Because the main body of a new heavy sniper crossbow was made from giant bones, it was at least twice as heavy as the original one. Just the gross weight alone was already over 500 kilograms. With this kind of weight, normal people wouldn't be able to pick it up, let alone use it. However, this bit of weight was nothing more than a drizzle to Wang Sheng. A group of people crowded around Wang Sheng and brought him to an open area outside. When Wang Sheng was still choosing a target, Elderly already pointed at the volcano a few miles away and said, "Shoot over there." No one had any objections. Wang Sheng also nodded and held the heavy sniper crossbow and began to load it. The crossbow's arms were double-layered. Not counting the arrays, just the 4 fish bones' elasticity had already reached the level of 500,000 kilograms. No matter how strong Wang Sheng was, he couldn't use his physical strength to load the crossbow. He still had to rely on a stringing device. Even if the stringing device had a lever magnifying function, it still wasn't enough. Therefore, on the stringing device, there was also a special array to increase the power, allowing Wang Sheng to load the crossbow more effortlessly. With the help of these methods, Wang Sheng used 80% of the strength of both arms to successfully pull the crossbow. Everyone was speechless. They were authors, so of course they knew what kind of power was needed. In other words, other than Wang Sheng, no one else seemed to be able to use this brand new heavy sniper crossbow. A tooth arrow was loaded into the barrel, and Wang Sheng raised the heavy sniper crossbow horizontally with both hands and began to aim. Only the scope hadn't been modified. Everything else was brand new. While aiming, Wang Sheng's spirit chi entered the heavy sniper crossbow through his 2 hands. The array on the crossbow's arms began to activate, strengthening the elasticity, and the crossbow's body also became more and more stable with the array. Wang Sheng was aiming at a big rock about 5 miles away. Under Wang Sheng's reminder, the surrounding people had already dispersed. They didn't gather here in case something happened to the heavy sniper crossbow and affected too many people. After all, this was the first time they were shooting live ammunition. Taking a deep breath, Wang Sheng shouted to himself, "Aim! Ready? 3, 2, 1, fire!" He hooked his finger and pulled the trigger. The heavily strengthened bowstring was immediately released, and the Fong arrow was shot out. Bang! Wang Sheng felt a tremendous force pushing him back from the spot where his shoulder had struck. Fortunately, he was mentally prepared, so Wang Sheng stood in a forward and backward lunge. He exerted force from both his legs, waist, and abdomen at the same time, finally eliminating the huge recoil. Fortunately, the heavy sniper crossbow itself was heavy enough to reduce the force. If it was the weight of Wang Sheng's M200 sniper rifle, the rifle would have bounced back like an accelerated arrow. Fortunately, Wang Sheng was prepared and wasn't surprised at all. This was a 30mm caliber machine gun. It would be strange if the recoil was small. Almost as soon as the arrow was fired, the big rock disappeared in an instant. Boom! A huge explosion sounded. The volcano target was completely covered by the billowing smoke and dust. Nothing could be seen. When Wang Sheng was designing it, he had basically calculated that the weight of the Fong arrow had increased by 20 times, and the shooting force had increased by almost the same amount. However, the length of the barrel had doubled. With the addition of the array, the speed of the Fong arrow would be 3 times faster than the original heavy sniper crossbow. It would be at least Mach 9 speed. The kinetic energy of the Fong arrow had increased by almost 200 times. In other words, the power had increased by almost 200 times. When the smoke and dust settled, everyone looked at the volcano again, and their eyes all widened. The spot that Wang Sheng had shot had been a large boulder and a normal volcanic wall. But now, there was only a huge pit. It was more than 6 feet deep and had a radius of 5 to 6 feet. The original big rock had long turned into pieces or exploded somewhere else. In any case, other than the big pit, there was nothing else. This doesn't count. While everyone was still dumbfounded, they suddenly heard Wang Sheng's voice. Volcanic rocks are soft to begin with, so we can't see the specific power. Is there a big iron block? Put a few over there. Everyone heard that it made sense. Volcanic rocks were indeed very soft. Using the Fong arrow to attack was like using an anti-aircraft gun to hit a mosquito. Thus, the 2 elders in charge of the warehouse immediately went to the warehouse to find a big metal block so that they could put it over to withstand the attack of the Fong arrow to test its power. In less than half an hour, a big metal block was put over there. It was a 3-foot cube, exactly 1 cubic meter. It was a complete piece. After everyone left, Wang Sheng raised the heavy sniper crossbow again. Boom! Another arrow. Boom! The metal block 5 miles away was hit. When Wang Sheng recovered from the recoil and began to observe, he discovered that the 1 cubic meter metal block had also disappeared without a trace. The group of people weren't afraid of traveling and quickly rushed over there. Then, they found out what had happened. The big metal block was shot by Wang Sheng's Fong arrow. The Fong arrow directly drilled into the metal block and caused a violent explosion. The big metal block was completely blown into pieces. There were countless fragments in the surroundings. So many people found them piece by piece and piled them together. Seeing the pile of pieces, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Among so many pieces that were found, there wasn't a piece larger than the size of a fist. It was completely broken. That was a very hard metal block from the Linglong Pavilion's warehouse. It had been smelted and forged by a few great grandmasters. It was usually used to make high-quality weapons, but now, it was shot into pieces by Wang Sheng's arrow. Even a metal block that weighed several tons was like this. If a human was hit by such an arrow, it would be really difficult to even collect their corpse. Everyone was still excited. Next, they tested a few more arrows and checked all aspects. Finally, they thoroughly understood the performance of the heavy sniper crossbow and the Fong arrow. Compared to the original heavy sniper crossbow, the power was increased by 200 times and the accuracy within 5,000 meters was shocking. But after this distance, it was a bit unstable and the accuracy was not as good as the original heavy sniper crossbow. But this distance was already enough. Within 10 miles, the Fong arrow would not miss. It was enough for Wang Sheng to deal with those old seniors. The great grandmasters continued with their final modifications and improvements, while also creating a large number of Fong arrows. At this time, Wang Sheng's sculpting of the weapons had reached the final stage. There was only one last step left, which was to forcefully insert a swordfish source spirit into each weapon when it was separated from the weapon. This was a very important step. If it failed, the weapon would still be a top-quality weapon, but it would not reach the level of an exclusive weapon. Reaching this step, Wang Sheng also stopped and began to carefully work. The best place to separate the source spirit was Wang Sheng's source spirit space. With a thought, the swordfish source spirit appeared in Wang Sheng's source spirit space. Are you ready? Wang Sheng directly sent a thought to the swordfish source spirit. Chapter 1525. The swordfish source spirit seemed to have already accepted its fate, obediently letting Wang Sheng do as he pleased. It was this cooperative, so Wang Sheng could not do anything ruthless. Dozens of little tautai swarmed over and began to gnaw on the tip of the swordfish source spirit's long mouth. Of course, they did not want to swallow the swordfish source spirit, but rather bite off the long mouth of the swordfish source spirit. In this aspect, there was no one better than the little tautai. Everything went very smoothly. The moment the long mouth was bitten off, Wang Sheng's hand grabbed a dagger and sent the bitten-off tip into the dagger from the source spirit space. Perhaps it was because of the body's bones. That bit of the split tip did not have the slightest hindrance as it entered the dagger, completely without any twists and turns. After completing this step, Wang Sheng took a tool and cut off the last connecting part of the dagger, cutting off the entire swordfish's long mouth, and gave it to Aki. Unsurprisingly, Aki did not appear to be attacked by the source spirit. If you have nothing to do, just use your spiritual energy to nourish it. Wang Sheng reminded Aki. The long-mouthed source spirit certainly did not have much intelligence. The more spiritual energy it absorbed from Aki, the more it would fuse with Aki, and the more convenient it would be for Aki to use it in the future. Because the split source spirit was part of the swordfish's long mouth, the split source spirit also had the effect of increasing its attack power, which was quite practical. Of course, in the source spirit space, Wang Sheng did not forget to use a large amount of spiritual energy to nourish the swordfish source spirit. The spiritual energy of the deep-sea mad shark's fin was mostly absorbed and nourished by the swordfish source spirit. In less than 2 days, the long mouth that had been cut off once again grew back. The pitiful swordfish source spirit, after the long mouth grew back, it was once again bitten off by the little tautai and sent into another dagger. From start to finish, Wang Sheng had taken a total of 4 daggers and 2 swords. After a total of 6 times, he sent the swordfish source spirit back to the long sword carved in the center of the swordfish's mouth. Wang Sheng's own tiger fang dagger was already resting on his body. As for the remaining dagger and 3 swords, Wang Sheng had the people on the island build 4 boxes and seal them. Apart from Wang Sheng, no one else had touched them before they were handed over to their owners. Even Wang Sheng did not inject any more spiritual qi into the swords to ensure the purity of the spiritual qi. By the time Wang Sheng was done with all this, half a month had already passed. During this period of time, 200 tooth arrows had been made according to the plan. At the same time, 600 ordinary metal tooth arrows had been made, enough for Wang Sheng to use. After this, there was nothing for the great grandmasters to do. They just had to move to the capital. The preparations for the entire island's relocation were almost complete. All of the important items were stored in storage rings and carried by the 8 elders. Everything else that could be brought along was packed up and sent to the fishing village by ship. The only things left here were the houses that could not be brought along, and those did not need to be brought along. A large portion of the people were also sent to the fishing village, waiting for Wang Sheng and the group of great grandmasters to leave before heading to the capital together. Let's go. Wang Sheng saw that everyone did not want to stay on this island for a moment longer. With a wave of his hand, he gave the final order on this island. Everyone boarded the ship, including Wang Sheng and Aki. They did not need to worry about being exposed, so they directly set sail during the day and went straight to the fishing village by the coast. It was impossible for Wang Sheng to go to the capital with everyone now, so the core strength of the exquisite pavilion could only go to the capital by themselves. Fortunately, There were 18 legend rank experts and many 9th stage realm experts, which was a force that could not be ignored. As long as they showed their identity as the exquisite pavilion, no one would dare to make things difficult for them. Aki also mixed in with the group and slightly disguised herself. She also wanted to follow them to the capital, and she was the witness to prove that these grandmasters of the exquisite pavilion were completely on Wang Sheng's side. Otherwise, if she did not show up and Wang Sheng did not show up, Mare might not dare to believe so many people. If it was not handled well and these grandmasters were dissatisfied, it would not be a good thing. Of course, the other reason was that with Aki's current cultivation, she was totally unable to help Wang Sheng. This was not the 1,000 Despair Grounds, and the people they were going to face next were not ordinary experts. Aki would be a burden if she stayed by Wang Sheng's side. Aki was self-aware and would not let Wang Sheng take the risk for her, so she obediently embarked on the journey to the capital. The dagger and long sword which were made for Mare and Rosa, of course, they were brought along with Aki. By then, she would pass it to them personally. This was also one of Aki's missions in the capital, to let Mare and the others know that Wang Sheng was safe and sound, and also to warn them not to act rashly temporarily. After the exquisite pavilion's group set off, Wang Sheng then rode on the heavy snow and headed straight to the 1,000 Despair Grounds. From the time Lin Xiu was brought away by LV Wenho till now, it had already been close to half a year's time. Wang Sheng also wanted to find out what was the situation in the various parties. Those seniors who had unlocked the seal 500 years ago, had they already caused the various families' abilities to rise greatly? Had the previous balance of power been broken? The most important thing was that Wang Sheng was waiting for Lin Xiu. Lin Xiu said before that her injuries would at least need half a year to recover, so calculating the time, it should be about right. However, Wang Sheng still had some doubts about this time. LV Wenho did not have the means of Wang Sheng's 9 words incantation to promote recovery. Only relying on spirit medicines and cultivation places with abundant spiritual energy, it would probably take a longer time. Wang Sheng certainly hoped that Lin Xiu could recover faster, but some things could not be rushed, especially this kind of thing like recuperation. It would not be good if the speed was too fast. When Wang Sheng flew to the sky above the core of the 1,000 Despair Grounds, it was already a different scene. The glacier lake had already disappeared without a trace. Even the last of the hard ice had already completely melted and flowed away. The original muddy ground had already dried up and turned into solid land. There were many kinds of trees and whatnot soaked in water, looking completely different from the large circle of tropical jungle outside. However, this area was now a boiling cauldron of voices. In the centermost area of 30 miles, there were a large number of experts coming and going in almost all directions. Wang Sheng pondered and knew the reason. The 24 valleys left behind by Lin Xiu must have now become cultivation holy lands controlled by all parties. It was just that he did not know how the various parties divided the benefits, so he needed further investigation by Wang Sheng. The aura of the 1,000 Despair Grounds had already begun to weaken, leaving only the central area of a few dozen miles that was still very rich in spiritual energy. With the great ceiling array broken, there was no more spiritual energy to provide to the periphery of the 1,000 Despair Grounds. After half a year of changes, as long as one had trained in the 1,000 Despair Grounds for a few months, they could basically come and go freely in the 1,000 Despair Grounds. Wang Sheng found a place and quietly returned to the ground, letting heavy snow wait for him in the air first, while Wang Sheng sneaked out of the carefree city. Chapter 1526. He found an ordinary cultivator and gave him a few dozen gold coins. He asked him to bring a heavy arrow used for sniper crossbows into Carefree City as a keepsake. After entering the inner city, he looked for the old shadow eunuch and asked him to meet him outside the city. The old shadow eunuch was the most suitable person to ask for information. Wang Sheng was wearing a disguised mask from Carefree City. It was an exquisite work of art and could hide the fluctuations of array formations. After wearing it, no one would be able to see through it. However, Wang Sheng obtained this mask from the Carefree City Lord's residence. In other words, he got it from Lu Wenho. Wang Sheng couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't be discovered by the Carefree City Lord's men when he entered Carefree City with a mask on. Given the current relationship between Wang Sheng and Lu Wenho, it was hard to say. Wang Sheng didn't want to take this risk. The old shadow eunuch was definitely loyal to the royal family. Otherwise, the emperor wouldn't have trusted him for so many years. If he wanted to ask for information, the old shadow eunuch was definitely the most suitable person in the entire Carefree City. Even though Wang Sheng's name had spread far and wide, not everyone knew what Wang Sheng looked like. This was especially true for the shops outside Carefree City. In recent years, there were many shops that employed ordinary people. Many people were willing to pay a few dozen gold coins for a trip into the city. In fact, many people who didn't want to enter Carefree City used this method to communicate with the people who set up the city. Back then, the Pavilion of Delicacies shop outside the city used this method to trick Wang Sheng out of Carefree City for the Dai family. From Wang Sheng's point of view, the situation outside Carefree City seemed to be a little tense. It wasn't hard to understand. Without a flying mount, the fastest way to reach the core of the grounds of Thousand Despair was to follow the main road from Carefree City all the way to Carefree City's camp before entering the core of the grounds of Thousand Despair. Now that the 24 valleys were so important, it wouldn't be right for Carefree City to slack off. There was no news from the old shadow eunuch for a long time. The person who had delivered the letter had already returned. The only result he brought back was to tell Wang Sheng that the item had been delivered, but there was no reply. Wang Sheng was patient. He knew that the old shadow eunuch wouldn't easily trust someone from outside the city, so he wasn't in a hurry. He just quietly waited in the room across the street from the one reserved for the shadow. Although the shadow's speed was very fast, Wang Sheng firmly believed that if it came, it would not be able to escape his eyes and ears. He waited until nightfall, but the old shadow eunuch did not appear. Wang Sheng was not in a hurry. He just made some Carefree City's braised meat and ate it slowly, waiting patiently. In the latter half of the night, there was finally movement from the other side. Wang Sheng didn't even need to see the person. He only needed to hear the familiar footsteps to know that the old shadow eunuch had appeared. Before he even entered the room, the shadow eunuch used a 7-word formula to tell him where he was hiding. The old eunuch was only stunned for a moment before he directly turned to Wang Sheng's side. Like a wisp of black smoke, he passed through the window that Wang Sheng had left behind. A silence formation was immediately activated. In this silent night, it didn't attract the attention of others. Outside of Carefree City, who could live so calmly? There were many people who didn't feel safe. A silence formation was the norm. Were you the one who spied on the core of the grounds of Thousand Despair yesterday? The moment the shadow entered and saw Wang Sheng, he couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. He caught the wine bottle that Wang Sheng tossed over and took a big gulp before asking Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng was shocked. He had been sitting on the back of heavy snow to observe the situation below the grounds of Thousand Despair. The place was 10,000 meters in the sky. If one were to look up from below, they would only see white clouds. How could they see him? It was me. Wang Sheng quickly nodded his head and admitted. The old eunuch wouldn't ask such a question for no reason. It was obvious that it had something to do with him. That's right. The shadow also had a look of realization on his face. After clinking a glass of wine with Wang Sheng, he slowly explained, "Yesterday afternoon, there was a messenger bird message. It said that the senior overseeing the grounds of Thousand Despair had discovered someone spying on us from high up in the sky. Didn't you feel that there was something wrong with the atmosphere yesterday afternoon?" Wang Sheng immediately understood. So that's why, when he arrived, he already felt that something was wrong. So the root of the problem was still him. Fortunately, he was careful not to enter the city. Otherwise, he might have been trapped in the city. How could that be? Wang Sheng asked with some reluctance. The old monsters that came out from there are all frighteningly powerful. The shadow seemed to be a little afraid. Within a 20-li radius, almost no expert would be able to hide. You can't even fly that high, right? Even if those old monsters can't find you, Your mount will definitely not be able to escape their detection. At this moment, Wang Sheng discovered that the old eunuch had already entered the ninth-degree realm. It looked like he was already in the late stage of the ninth-degree realm and would soon reach the peak of the ninth-degree realm. He guessed that the shadow had been working hard these few days. The old eunuch's words made Wang Sheng speechless. 10,000 meters in the air, which was about 20 li, was indeed within the detection range of those old monsters. In addition to the fact that there was no cover in the sky, Heavy Snow's huge body was simply a matter of course to be discovered. Unlike Wang Sheng, Heavy Snow could not restrain his aura. His current 11th degree realm aura was as clear as a firefly in the dark in the detection range of those old monsters. Fortunately, he came to the grounds of Thousand Despair first and didn't rashly enter Carefree City. If he had entered, he might really not be able to come out. What's the situation now? Wang Sheng heaved a sigh of relief and asked, "Where are you referring to?" The old eunuch didn't have much enmity towards Wang Sheng. He was a member of the royal family and was naturally close to Wang Sheng. "Tell me about it." Wang Sheng didn't point out anything and let the old eunuch continue. "Let's talk about Carefree City first." The shadow grunted and started to narrate to Wang Sheng. There weren't many changes in Carefree City. The mysterious city lord had also appeared, but outsiders still didn't know his identity. Carefree City was naturally placed in the same group as the royal family and those small families. They obediently followed them and didn't reveal themselves. They fought for those who should fight and didn't stand out for those who shouldn't. This was the same as what LV Wenho said previously, and it wasn't out of Wang Sheng's expectations. In order to cover up Lin Xiao, LV Wenho definitely wouldn't put himself at the heart of the struggle. It was because of the road that Carefree City opened up previously that this became the fastest way to enter the core of the grounds of Thousand Despair. Other families might need to open up a road from the beginning, but Carefree City didn't need to. LV Wenho seized this opportunity and directly opened several convenient large inns along the road. He also sent a large number of people to build roads and inns between the camp and the core area. Now, basically all the people who went and took this road, and supplies were also replenished from this road. The Imperial Treasure House definitely made a lot of money this time. So many people entered, Wang Sheng was a little surprised. The 8 big families are actually willing. Chapter 1527. Of course, they wouldn't be happy to take it for themselves. The Shadow Eunuch was annoyed at the mention of this. But weren't there 4 clans that were gone? It wouldn't be good for them to take over those 4 clans in public, would it? Only when the silhouette explained in detail did Wang Sheng understand. The 4 clans had no descendants, so they had joined forces and killed them on the spot. The valleys that the 4 clans had been guarding had naturally become ownerless. Since the clans didn't want to give up their protected valleys for the time being, the 4 valleys had become the best gift to appease the clans that didn't have any experts to protect them. Each valley had 30 people at a time, and they would stay there for 10 days. Those who didn't have the protection of their ancestors would take turns to use these 4 valleys to cultivate. From another perspective, the clans outside of the 8 clans actually occupied 14 valleys, which was a few more than the 10 valleys of the 8 clans. This was a benefit that all clans had fought for. Of course, the clans with ancestors were happy. Each clan occupied 1 valley, and some even had 2. It was the most suitable place for their legend realm experts to cultivate in. It hadn't even been a month since the formation of the seal was lifted, but the clans had already distributed their resources. The core area of the ground of Thousand Despair inevitably became lively. What's going on with the clans? Wang Sheng understood the situation at the core area of the ground of Thousand Despair and asked about the movements of the clans. For the time being, it seems to be peaceful. The Shadow Eunuch knew what Wang Sheng was asking about. So he explained, when the ancestors of the clans were unsealed, it was said that the Grandmaster Band helped them a lot. They could use the Grandmaster Band's performance to consolidate their cultivation. So except for a few who were guarding the core area of the ground of Thousand Despair, almost all the ancestors were in the capital city listening to the Grandmaster Band's performance every day. Every day. When Wang Sheng heard this, he was unhappy. Allowing the great grandmasters to perform when they wanted to? This was clearly using the strong to suppress the weak and forcing the great grandmasters to perform. They promised countless benefits. The shadow knew that Wang Sheng was unhappy when he saw Wang Sheng's expression. He smiled and said, "Don't forget that the Changsheng Duke residence also has an ancestor guarding it. They won't do anything rash." During this period of time, the biggest beneficiary was the Lijian Lane. Tens of billions of gold notes were issued. In addition, those great grandmasters can choose a valley to cultivate in for 10 days at any time. It's a huge profit. Is there an ancestor in Duke Changsheng's residence? This was Wang Sheng's first time hearing about this. Looking at the shadow eunuch, Wang Sheng didn't know what to say. When was Duke Changsheng's residence established? Was there an ancestor from Duke Changsheng's residence 500 years ago? Who would believe that? A female senior from the victorious Return Palace. The shadow old eunuch shook his head and said, "It's also because of Princess Mei Er's great fortune. All of a sudden, there's a great god in the residence. We don't have to be on tenterhooks anymore. It's all thanks to you, eunuch." Wang Sheng cupped his hands and thanked the old shadow eunuch. If the shadow had not brought Mayer out of the imperial palace that year, how could Mayer still be alive now? The shadow old eunuch repeatedly declined, but the smile on his face was really proud. In the past, he had risked his life to save the Empress and Princess Mayer. Now, there was finally a reward. As long as he was willing, he could return to the capital at any time and take up the position of the head of the imperial palace. However, in this current situation, the shadow old eunuch could come into contact with more secrets in Worry-Free City. Thus, he temporarily gave up on this idea. In any case, the shadow old eunuch could live freely in Worry-Free City. Didn't any of the families come looking for me with great fanfare? Wang Sheng continued to ask. Of course they did. The shadow old eunuch replied with a smile. How could they not? Why do you think they came to the capital to listen to the great grandmaster's performance? Are they afraid that their cultivation is not stable enough? Aren't they afraid that the expert from the Lin family would come knocking on their door? As soon as there was movement in the sky, even Worry-Free City became nervous. Isn't this enough to explain something? I don't know what the Dai family suffered, but they have always been looking for trouble. The shadow old eunuch saw that Wang Sheng was not surprised and knew that he must have been mentally prepared. He only told him what had happened recently. They once came looking for you with great fanfare for a period of time, but then they quieted down. However, recently, they have set their sights on the Song family. Set their sights on the Song family? Wang Sheng asked, a little puzzled. The Song family also has an ancestor holding down the fort. Do they still dare to provoke them? Or are they planning to fight to the death first? The Dai family has sent out 2 ancestors this time. The shadow old eunuch drank a cup of wine and ate a mouthful of food. He slowly explained, the Song family is unlucky this time. Their ancestor seems to have made a mistake in his cultivation. When he fights, he often loses his strength. He can't even beat one person in a one-on-one fight, let alone 2. Right now, the Song family might not even be able to catch up to the Xia family. Wang Sheng had heard from Lin Xiao that among the 24 experts, there were a few who cultivated in extreme directions. The Song family was indeed unlucky to have encountered one. In this way, the Song family originally ranked first in the number of experts and had great strength. However, because of the appearance of their ancestors, they suddenly became last. The affairs of the world were impermanent. What trouble did they find the Song family for? Wang Sheng asked. Speaking of which, it is related to you, Duke. The shadow old eunuch clinked his cup with Wang Sheng's. After drinking, he slowly said, they are now bringing up the old dead of the Dai family's young master, Dai Huan, and want the Song family to give an explanation. I killed Dai Huan. What explanation does the Song family want? Wang Sheng knew that this was just an excuse for the Dai family to make things difficult for the Song family. He sneered in disdain and asked the shadow old eunuch again. I can't deny that when you killed Dai Huan, Miss Song was also present. The shadow shook his head. The Dai family is powerful now. In any case, They are dead set on this point. They want the Song family to give an explanation. Didn't the old Taoist and I kill the entire Dai family's palace? Why don't they find trouble with me and the old Taoist? Wang Sheng continued to ask with a sneer. They did. The shadow old eunuch looked at Wang Sheng and said, the two Dai family ancestors came to the Laojun temple on the day they arrived in the capital. Just one person made a move, and ancestor Ling Su was seriously injured. However, it seems that the Dai family ancestor who made a move didn't get much better and paid a little price. Originally, they wanted to destroy the Laojun temple directly, but they were also shocked by ancestor Ling Su this time. They didn't know what other hidden means the Laojun temple had, so they temporarily retreated and told the Laojun temple that both sides were even. Then what do they want from the Song family? Wang Sheng asked without batting an eyelid. They want Miss Song to marry the current patriarch of the Dai family, Dai Xiao. The shadow old eunuch stared at Wang Sheng's eyes and replied calmly. Chapter 1528. Wang Sheng's pupils suddenly constricted. The old shadow eunuch saw it, but he was smart enough not to say anything. Wang Sheng was not surprised that the Dai family's ancestors came to Laojun Temple. It was not surprising that the old Taoist Ling Su could fight with the Dai family's ancestors. The old Taoist was already in the 12th stage realm. Compared to those guys, he seemed to be only one realm away. The old Taoist fought his way up, and the time he fought in the legend and epic realms was much longer than those ancestors. Their realms were raised bit by bit in the seal. How would they have the chance to participate in the battle? They had rich battle experience, and their life insights were also much richer than those ancestors who had been sealed in the array for hundreds of years. The result of the battle was a one-on-one. The old Taoist was seriously injured, and the other party was probably injured at least similar. Otherwise, the other party would not have retreated. Back then, the Dai family took advantage of the time when the 7 sects were searching for the Dao inheritance to attack and provoked the entire Dao sect. Now that the Dao sect's power was spread all over the world, it was not easy to maintain the 6 sects divided. If the pressure from the ancestors caused the 6 sects to merge into one Dao sect again, the Dai family would be in big trouble. Under such circumstances, it was understandable that the Dai family and Laojun Temple were even verbally. Although the Dai family had 2 senior experts, if they really made enemies on all sides, they would not be able to hold on for long. The 8 families were actually fighting and scheming against each other 500 years ago. Could it be that they were in harmony now? God knows how many people were waiting for the opportunity to appear, waiting to get rid of others. If not for Lin Xiu, this great enemy, the families might have already started a war. However, the Dai family wanted Song Yin to marry Dai Xiao. This was definitely revenge. On one hand, it was revenge for the Song family's care to the Dai family all these years. On the other hand, there was a huge possibility that the reason was because of Wang Sheng. Other families did not know where Wang Sheng went, and the Dai family did not know either. But the Dai family knew that none of the experts they sent to intercept Wang Sheng had returned. When they sent people to search, they only found a few frozen corpses. The few with the highest cultivation did not even leave behind their corpses. They were all used as nourishment by the heavy snow. From the scars on the corpses, the Dai family also knew that Wang Sheng definitely had an unbelievably powerful flying mount. Wang Sheng wasn't easy to catch in the first place. Now that he had a flying mount that even legendary masters couldn't do anything to, it was even more impossible to catch. Using Song Yin to force the marriage wasn't necessarily just to force Wang Sheng to show himself. Although, on the surface, the Song clan and Wang Sheng were enemies. Anyone with a discerning eye would know that Miss Song had always favored Wang Sheng. Over the years, who knew how many talented young men she had rejected? Using Song Yin as a target for Wang Sheng might really be a conspiracy. Are they very determined to force the marriage? Or are they using the excuse of negotiation to let the whole world know? Wang Sheng frowned and asked. He had already seen the cold shadow in Wang Sheng's eyes. How could he not know what Wang Sheng was thinking? An old eunuch who could survive the palace's infighting and still hold the treasures. He didn't need Wang Sheng to remind him. Yes, they're here for you. The old eunuch didn't explain the process. If you don't show yourself, I'm afraid Miss Song won't last more than a few days. Are the Dai clan's two ancestors in the capital? Wang Sheng asked again. One is in the capital. The old shadow eunuch shook his head. The injured one can't stand the rhythm of the flying wasps, so he returned to the Dai clan to recuperate. You can say that he's overseeing the Dai clan. Wang Sheng didn't continue to dwell on this issue. He began to ask about the other families, especially the current situation in the capital. He had to ask about the lives and safety of Mei and the others. The old shadow eunuch told him everything he knew about Mei. The capital was now so prosperous that it made people envious. It was said that the ancestors from 500 years ago were also shocked when they arrived in the capital. The men went to Qian Xingyuan first, while the women went straight to moisturizing workshop and dream workshop, enjoying themselves so much that they forgot to go home. Duke, if you want to get close to those ancestors, I'm afraid you can't use your flying mount for the time being. After saying a lot, the old shadow eunuch earnestly advised Wang Sheng. Perhaps ordinary experts would not be able to discover the Duke's mount. However, those old fellows are all very vigilant. There is nowhere to hide within 10 li. Wang Sheng also realized this was a problem. Heavy snow was too big. Wang Sheng's golden pattern could cover up his own aura, but it could only cover up one person's aura. It was impossible to cover up heavy snow's aura. Just as the shadow said, it was impossible to get close to those old guys with heavy snow. Even if those old guys discovered heavy snow, they wouldn't be able to do anything about it. However, Wang Sheng's new heavy sniper crossbow only had an accurate range of 10 miles. The only way was to let heavy snow leave from a few dozen miles away, and Wang Sheng could get close to those experts by himself. Didn't the Dai family have an old guy who was injured and went back to recuperate? Then he would be chosen. This was the first time the heavy sniper crossbow was used. There had to be a worthy target, right? Don't be fooled so easily. The shadow warned, the Dai family is obviously playing tricks. Don't send yourself to their doorstep. I know what I'm doing. Thank you. Wang Sheng thanked the shadow. The shadow was obviously thinking for Wang Sheng's sake. Wang Sheng could not accept this favor. I'm saying if. The shadow saw that Wang Sheng had his own opinion and didn't say anything else. He changed the topic and asked hesitantly, if that person from the Lin family recovers, can you let the imperial family go? At the end of the day, the shadow was from the imperial family. He was still thinking for the imperial family. The fact that he could ask this question already explained a lot. She's never put any family or power in her eyes. Lin Xiu's beautiful face and familiar eyes appeared in Wang Sheng's mind. He smiled at the old shadow eunuch and said, it's you guys who think too highly of yourselves. The shadow had been immersed in the conspiracy of the imperial palace for many years and had been undercover in Worry-Free City for many years. His mind was extremely nimble. When he heard Wang Sheng's words, he was instantly ecstatic. The other party didn't put anyone in her eyes at all. Didn't that mean the imperial family was the same? As long as the imperial family didn't take the initiative to provoke the other party would definitely be too lazy to care about the imperial family. If this was said by someone else, the old shadow eunuch would definitely not believe it. However, this was Wang Sheng's words, so he had no choice but to believe it. Send a letter to Mei. Tell her not to do anything and just stay in the capital. Wang Sheng gave the shadow one last order and then directly left the room for the shadow. He quietly left and went straight to the land of Thousand Despair to meet up with heavy snow. What kind of trick was the Dai family playing? Chapter 1529. Lurking on a hilltop, Wang Sheng used his scope to observe the movements at the foot of the mountain. At the foot of the mountain was a villa of the Dai clan. The environment was very beautiful, with mountains and rivers on one side and abundant spiritual energy on the other. It was the most suitable place for injured people to recuperate. Wang Sheng followed a team of messengers from the Dai clan here. There was nothing unusual at the Dai clan's palace. Even the patriarch and the great elder rarely appeared, so they were obviously not there. Where else could the patriarch and the great elder be if they were not at the capital's palace at this time? There was no other possibility other than to serve the injured patriarch attentively. The patriarch and the great elder were not in the capital, but the affairs of the Dai nation would not stop, so there would always be some matters that needed to be handled for those big shots to decide. Important matters would definitely be delivered by messenger bird, so relatively less important matters or matters that needed to be reported and discussed in person must be met by the patriarch and the great elder. The team of messengers that Wang Sheng followed was clearly responsible for delivering these messages. It would take a normal person 2 days to reach the capital, but these messengers could rush there in half a day. Wang Sheng followed behind them easily and knew their destination without making sound. The villa at the foot of the mountain was heavily guarded. When he saw the posture, Wang Sheng knew that he must have found a big shot. However, Wang Sheng did not act rashly, and instead observed patiently from the nearby mountain. There were experts from the Dai clan patrolling the surrounding dozens of miles, but it was simply a pipe dream for them to find a legendary expert like Wang Sheng, who was also an ace sniper. They did not even find any traces of Wang Sheng, because Wang Sheng had been moving along the traces they had left. Who would think that the patrol traces left by their own people would be suspicious? As for Wang Sheng's aura, even old Taoist Ling Su could not detect it when Wang Sheng used the golden patterns, let alone ordinary experts. Being heavily guarded was a good thing. Wang Sheng carefully observed for half a day and found a worthy target in the courtyard, the newly appointed Great Elder of the Dai family. Since the Great Elder was here, it was highly likely that the new patriarch, Dai Xiao, was here as well. In that case, the injured old ancestor was more likely to be the culprit. Wang Sheng did not sense the presence of an extremely strong master, which meant that the ancestor did not casually use his qi. His injuries should have greatly affected him. Before coming to Dai Nation, Wang Sheng made a trip to Song Nation. The news was not good. It was said that Song Yin had already been suppressed by the Song clan's great ancestor. Now, the person in charge of the Song Nation was the nominal Duke of Song, Song Yan's father, Song Hongda. After hearing this news, Wang Sheng realized that Song Yin couldn't hold on any longer. For the sake of the Song Kingdom, Song Hongda would definitely do something like giving Song Yin to Dai Xiao. Therefore, there were some things that could not be dragged on. Even if it meant exposing Wang Sheng, he would not hesitate. During the day, Wang Sheng did not see the Dai clan's old ancestor. It was not until nighttime that Wang Sheng saw the shadow of a possible expert. That expert came out to take a breath of fresh air because it was hot in the house at night. He was walking slowly in the courtyard. The expert was obviously injured. He was out of breath and coughing frequently. More importantly, Wang Sheng saw Dai Xiao's figure among the people who followed him out. Dai Xiao, who was supposed to be the patriarch of the Dai family, was like a filial son in front of that expert, serving him attentively. Wang Sheng was very cautious. Seeing this scene, Wang Sheng still did not make a move immediately. Instead, he continued to observe and carefully observe that expert. The opponent's cultivation must have been affected. At least from where Wang Sheng was from, that expert did not look like he was in the 13th stage. Compared to deep-sea mad shark's aura, he was at most in the epic realm. There might be some deviation. Of course, the distance was too far. Wang Sheng could not make a detailed and clear judgment. He could only make a rough estimate. But this was in line with the information that Wang Sheng had. The Dai clan's old ancestor was injured when he fought with the old Taoist Ling Su. It affected his cultivation, so he was recuperating in this courtyard of the Dai clan. The patriarch of the Dai family, Dai Xiao, and the Grand Elder were here to serve him. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Suddenly, that expert seemed to be aware of something. He suddenly turned his head towards Wang Sheng and stared at his direction. There was no leakage of aura, but Wang Sheng's long-distance surveillance still made the other party feel that something was wrong. At this point, Wang Sheng could confirm that this injured expert was the injured old ancestor of the Dai family. He could detect Wang Sheng's spying from 10 miles away. This was in line with the performance of a 13th stage expert. When Wang Sheng was observing at night. He had already taken out the heavy sniper crossbow and loaded the toothed arrow. At this moment, the other party turned to face Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng decisively pulled the trigger of the heavy sniper crossbow. The muzzle speed of the heavy arrow reached Mach 9. In a second, it flew towards the expert. The opponent did not notice the killing intent at first. When the toothed arrow flew in the air for more than a second, he then realized something was wrong. When he wanted to dodge, it was too late. The toothed arrow only left him with a few tenths of a second to react. By the time he wanted to do anything, it was already too late. Wang Sheng had already offset the strong recoil. He used the scope to observe the situation over there. But what he observed made Wang Sheng's expression change. The target expert wanted to avoid this fatal arrow. But no matter how agile his reaction was, he could not avoid being hit by the toothed arrow. Wang Sheng aimed at the chest, not the head. His movement was not that fast. But before the toothed arrow exploded, an incomparably swift figure suddenly flew out from the house that the expert had just come out from. He did not care about the guy who was struggling for his life under the toothed arrow. Like an arrow released from a bow, he flew in the direction of Wang Sheng. Looking at the movements of this expert, it was extremely straightforward. The aura that erupted from his body right now was a strength that even old Taoist Ling Su had never possessed. This was a true expert. This was the true old ancestor of a Dai clan. Oh no, he had been tricked. Wang Sheng instantly understood. The guy who had just come out to put on an act was clearly bait. His injury, affecting his cultivation, was completely a trap. But in order to lure Wang Sheng out, the Dai family had actually used a legendary expert as bait. They had indeed put in a lot of capital. Boom! The toothed arrow finally exploded. The entire courtyard was shrouded in a rain of blood and debris. The real expert had already determined Wang Sheng's position. He was about to pounce in Wang Sheng's direction. Wang Sheng did not panic. The distance between them was 5 kilometers. No matter how fast the opponent was, he needed time. Wang Sheng decisively put down the heavy sniper crossbow and began to load the toothed arrow. 30 seconds later, Wang Sheng raised the heavy sniper crossbow again. He aimed at the figure that was 3 kilometers away and pulled the trigger. Chapter 15:30. The distance between them was less than 1.5 li, slightly more than 1,000 meters. With the speed of a Mach 9 arrow, it could be said that the moment Wang Sheng pulled the trigger, he would not even have the time to offset the recoil before the other side was hit. With such speed, even a 13th-stage realm expert would be hit if they weren't careful. Not to mention the fact that the opponent thought that Wang Sheng was still using the same heavy sniper crossbow, the kind that even a legend expert's defenses couldn't penetrate, and so they charged over without any fear, not even bothering to dodge. Some of the experts in the monastery knew that the power of the heavy sniper crossbow had greatly increased. It was a pity that they had no way of notifying the patriarch who had already charged over. The moment the toothed arrow touched his body, the patriarch who was flying out finally realized that something was wrong. Unfortunately, it was too late. All he could do was circulate all the spiritual qi in his body and do his best to defend, trying to use his powerful cultivation base to block the toothed arrow. The 13th stage realm deep-sea wild shark's teeth were inconceivably sharp, easily piercing through all the defenses and burrowing into the expert's right lung. Before he could even feel the pain, a violent explosion erupted within his body. The patriarch was the patriarch. His toothed arrow had also exploded, and the legend expert in the monastery had been directly blown to pieces. But within the patriarch's body, all the explosions seemed to have been restrained by the patriarch's powerful body, and there hadn't been such a large-scale explosion. If there had been someone beside the patriarch, they would have only heard the sound of a beer bottle being opened. Seeing that the patriarch's body hadn't been pierced by the toothed arrow, they would have definitely thought that the patriarch had forcibly blocked the arrow. In reality, the arrow had indeed been blocked by the patriarch. It hadn't even been able to pierce through his body. But the patriarch had paid the price of blocking this arrow. One of his ribs had been completely shattered, and his right lung half of his stomach, half of his left lung, and half of his heart had all been turned into a pile of rotten meat. His flying body directly stopped. His powerful life force allowed the patriarch to still be able to use the remaining half of his lungs to maintain breathing. He could still feel, but right now all he could feel was his own life force slowly fading away. No one could survive a situation where half of their heart had been destroyed. Being able to stand and feel was already the final radiance of a setting sun. Wang Sheng shot the arrow. After knowing that he had hit the target, he didn't dare to stay a moment longer to observe the result of the shot. He directly put the heavy sniper crossbow back into his storage ring, turned around, and ran. As he ran, he used a sound wave that only the university could hear to call for it to fly over quickly. He had no choice but to escape. Two auras as powerful as the one in front of him suddenly appeared on the mountains on both sides of the mountain that were originally quiet. There were at least two ancestors of a certain clan from 500 years ago rushing over, and their target was none other than Wang Sheng. The Dai clan had been plotting against Wang Sheng all this time. The information that Wang Sheng obtained from various channels was that the Dai clan only had one injured patriarch who was recuperating here. However, there were two other patriarchs from unknown clans lying in ambush, all for the sake of stopping Wang Sheng. For these ancestors who had been unsealed, Lin Xiu was the #1 threat. Thus, Wang Sheng, who was most likely to know where Lin Xiu was, naturally became the biggest target. It wasn't difficult at all for them to join forces to deal with Wang Sheng. These ancestors had deceived everyone and made everyone think that they were either consolidating their cultivation in the capital city or sitting in the core of the land of Thousand Despair. Even the well-informed old shadow eunuch had been deceived. Who would have thought that there were three among them who were actually willing to stay at the Dai clan side without a word? Wang Sheng didn't doubt that the old shadow eunuch would trick him. It wasn't that the shadow didn't have such a motive. From the perspective of the royal family and that ancestor of the royal family, the shadow was very likely to trick Wang Sheng. However, the status of the shadow was too low. This kind of conspiracy couldn't be informed in advance unless they were certain in advance that Wang Sheng would definitely look for the shadow. The possibility of betting on this was really too low. Most importantly, the person whom the shadow was loyal to was the Son of Heaven himself, and not an ancestor of the Son of Heaven's family from 500 years ago. At that time, the Son of Heaven's family hadn't become the royal family, and that ancestor didn't have the aura of the Son of Heaven, so it was impossible for him to gain the loyalty of the shadow. Two 13th-stage realm ancestors were chasing after him from the left and right, so it would be strange if Wang Sheng didn't escape. The nearest one was only 5 miles or so away from Wang Sheng. The time he took to rush over was not enough for Wang Sheng to shoot the bowstring again. Moreover, there was another one. Only an idiot would stay on the spot. Wang Sheng tried his best to escape, totally disregarding his image. As long as he could hold on for 1 to 2 minutes, when heavy snow came over to fetch him, Wang Sheng would be able to escape without a trace. Heavy snow's supersonic speed was absolutely not something that these few ancestor experts could chase up to. Wang Sheng didn't know which family the two experts who were chasing after Wang Sheng were from. He also didn't know which family the fellow whom he shot an arrow at was from. Anyway, when Wang Sheng was hiding, these fellows didn't discover Wang Sheng's position. It was until Wang Sheng made his move that they found traces of Wang Sheng and started to chase after him. 1 minute later, Wang Sheng saw the white figure flying over from heavy snow, and his heart heaved a sigh of relief. The experts behind him were still 500 over meters away, although they would be caught up in another half a minute, but now they had no chance. This thought had just sprung up when a figure suddenly jumped out from the path of heavy snow and directly attacked Heavy Snow, who had already lowered his flying altitude. From the aura and speed that he revealed, this was another ancestor expert. In order to chase after Wang Sheng, they actually used 4 ancestor experts. Wang Sheng was also taken aback by this sudden turn of events. Immediately after, his heart clenched. Heavy Snow's figure was hit solidly, and even his flying direction was deviated. But Heavy Snow immediately adjusted himself and made a detour, wanting to fly towards Wang Sheng's side. Heavy snow. Go! Wang Sheng hurriedly shouted the 7 words formula at Heavy Snow, asking Heavy Snow to leave as soon as possible. Surrounded by 3 13th Realm experts, Heavy Snow had already been hit once, and seeing that his speed had dropped, if he still wanted to let Heavy Snow stay, it would be equivalent to letting Heavy Snow die. Wang Sheng would definitely not do such a thing. While asking Heavy Snow to leave, Wang Sheng adjusted his direction and tried his best to escape. Surrounded by 3 13th Realm experts, the chances of Wang Sheng leaving was simply negligible. Don't kill him. Capture him alive. A voice drifted into Wang Sheng's ears from behind. That was the voice of one of the ancestor experts instructing the other 2 companions. Hearing this voice, Wang Sheng's heart stirred and an inconceivable thought instantly gushed into Wang Sheng's mind. Dai family had such a big fanfare. Was it just to capture him alive? Chapter 1531. If the various families wanted to know Lin Xiu's location, they needed to get the exact information from Wang Sheng's mouth. This was without a doubt. Killing Wang Sheng was useless. It would only infuriate Lin Xiu even more. Moreover, in this current situation, their life and death enemy was Lin Xiu. Although Wang Sheng was also a legend realm expert, but in the eyes of those old ancestors, he was still just an ant and didn't have any influence on the overall situation. Therefore, they didn't have any objective motive of wanting to kill Wang Sheng. If one insisted on saying that they did, at most they would be furious that Wang Sheng took Lin Xiu away. So, they would kill Wang Sheng to vent their anger. At the same time, they would also let Lin Xiu come out with no one to receive her. Under this kind of situation, the 4 old ancestors coming up with such a big lineup, this was obviously not normal. It even exerted huge pressure on the Song family. Even if that old ancestor of the Song family's cultivation wasn't as deep as the 2 old ancestors of the Dai family. But under the situation of Lin Xiu, was this the time for them to have internal strife? Hence, the Dai family must have other motives. Then, what was the Dai family's motive? At this moment, being besieged by 3 13th stage realm old ancestors from 3 directions, Wang Sheng suddenly had a flash of inspiration as he thought of what the Dai family wanted. Wang Sheng's own primordial spirit. Wang Sheng's current primordial spirit was merely the remnant soul of a carp back then, but it was one of the 100 carps reared in the Song family's secret ground. The other 99 carps, because of mutually devouring each other, became a brand new 9-star soul that could be upgraded. Dai Huan died, so that primordial spirit was given to the current patriarch, Dai Xiao. Dai Xiao was obviously a legend realm expert now. Capturing Wang Sheng and devouring Wang Sheng's powerful primordial spirit was also considered to have made up for a small flaw in the primordial spirit back then, allowing Dai Xiao's cultivation to go up another level. So, their real target was Wang Sheng's primordial spirit. Only by capturing Wang Sheng alive would they be able to have designs on Wang Sheng's primordial spirit. Moreover, this was not a bad idea. If Wang Sheng's source spirit was swallowed, then Wang Sheng's cultivation would definitely be crippled. Then he would become an insignificant person who could not threaten any side. At that time, if they were to release Wang Sheng, Lijian Fong, Laoju Monastery, and even the Song clan would be grateful to the Dai clan. At least this would solve the conflict between Wang Sheng, Lin Xiu, and the various families. Only his source spirit and cultivation base would be crippled. With the wealth of Lijian Lane and the influence of the Old Lord Temple, it would not be difficult to find a strong source spirit for Wang Sheng to cultivate again. This period of time was sufficient for all parties to resolve their life and death battles with Lin Xiu. To think that the Dai clan could think of such a good way to kill many birds with one stone. This was also thanks to Wang Sheng's painstaking arrangements these few years. Lijian Fong had already grabbed hold of the various families' finances and could barely be considered as having the ability to protect themselves. With the addition of that old ancestor of Triumph Palace, it could be said that they were as stable as Mount Tai. The old Lord Temple relied on old Taoist Ling Su to be able to fight evenly with a 13th-stage realm old ancestor, which made all parties truly shocked at the Dao sect's strength. The old Lord Temple had old ancestor Ling Su, who knew if the other 5 sects of the Dao sect had similar experts. But what no one could have predicted was that the heavy sniper crossbow in Wang Sheng's hands had actually been upgraded. Their encirclement was originally foolproof, but because of this negligence, it led to a legendary expert being directly turned into pieces. Another old ancestor was still standing there motionless, not knowing what was going on. Perhaps if they knew the truth, they would directly go crazy from the huge loss. Seeing the 3 old ancestors getting closer and closer, Wang Sheng and the little person with battle awareness had already calculated that he could not escape. At this time, Wang Sheng instantly made a decision to take a risk. Since he could not escape anyway, success or failure depended on this one move. Wang Sheng's mouth suddenly emitted a sound wave that humans could not hear. In just an instant, with Wang Sheng as the center, all the insects within a radius of hundreds of feet immediately became active. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Wang Sheng's fingers flicked repeatedly, and the most important storage rings on his body immediately flew in several directions on the ground. These storage rings contained the equipment that Wang Sheng brought over from Earth. Wang Sheng's heavy sniper crossbow and tooth arrows, the long sword that Wang Sheng made for Lin Xiao, and his own military knife, and the bones and flesh of a batch of super demonic beasts of Wang Sheng. These are basically Wang Sheng's most important things. Even if Wang Sheng could not escape, these things could not easily fall into the hands of the Dai family. The insects in that area had been controlled by Wang Sheng. They would quickly store these storage rings in their underground nests, and after a day, they would send them to the bottom of the rock designated by Wang Sheng. The 3 old ancestors who were guarding and watching Wang Sheng for fear that Wang Sheng would escape. Wang Sheng believed that they would keep a close eye on all the living creatures in this area with a certain demonic beast aura, but it was impossible for them to watch the movements of those ordinary insects from such a distance. Therefore, they would not know that the most valuable storage rings on Wang Sheng had disappeared without a trace. When doing all this, Wang Sheng did not stop and still ran all the way. After running for about 5 to 6 li, Wang Sheng finally found himself surrounded and stopped running. This was a small circle with a circumference of more than 200 feet. It could be said that in this circle, no matter which direction Wang Sheng escaped in, he would be attacked by the 2 old ancestors. Heavy snow was already injured and obediently flew into the sky. No one could help Wang Sheng anymore. Duke Changsheng, surrender. The middle-aged man who was facing Wang Sheng said to Wang Sheng very calmly, "You were able to escape so far from us, and you even injured one of our companions. No one in the world can do better than you at your age. It's not embarrassing to surrender. Are you sure?" Wang Sheng had already planned to be captured. Naturally, he did not want to suffer any more physical pain. Therefore, he naturally opened his arms wide and asked the other party. Indeed, the other party looked at Wang Sheng approvingly. "I promise you in my name that as long as you surrender, we will not make things difficult for you. Don't worry, our companions will not go back on their words. We have something to ask you." He had just come out of the ceiling formation. Although he was more than 500 years old, it was evident that he was not used to calling himself I. He still addressed himself as I. "I am Song Lian. I can promise you." When Wang Sheng looked at the other 2, the one on the left spoke first. It turned out that the Song family was also involved. "I am Gan Qingchuan. Don't worry." The one on the right spoke next and introduced himself. The Gan family was also involved. "Even if the person I injured might die, can you guarantee that?" Wang Sheng suddenly revealed a smile on his face and asked the 3 of them, "I still don't know which family you are from. However, if you don't save him in time, I'm afraid he's dead." Chapter 1532. After Wang Sheng finished speaking, Dai Hao immediately became anxious. He turned to look at Song Lian, who was beside him. Not only Dai Hao, but Gan Qingchuan was also looking at Song Lian. "Sorry to trouble you, Brother Song." Dai Hao said to Song Lian very politely. From the looks of it, he seemed to be pleading with Song Lian. It didn't seem like the rumors that two experts from the Dai family were suppressing Song Lian. Song Lian didn't hesitate at all. He turned around and charged in the direction of his companion's hand. At this stage, Wang Sheng could tell that Song Lian was definitely proficient in healing. Perhaps his cultivation direction was in the direction of healing. Otherwise, Wang Sheng wouldn't have asked two people to look at Song Lian. It was obvious that they knew how powerful he was. Even as Song Lian charged out, he didn't forget to say to Wang Sheng, "Duke Changsheng, as long as you don't resist, we won't touch you." Wang Sheng believed him. In fact, this was his plan. He couldn't escape from the 13th-stage patriarchs. Why did he have to suffer before being captured? Wang Sheng didn't have the habit of being abused. Dai Hao didn't do anything himself. Gan Qingchuan stepped forward and used an array formation to shackle Wang Sheng's limbs. The array formation on the shackles easily suppressed the spiritual qi in Wang Sheng's body. He could only move like an ordinary person. However, he couldn't summon any spiritual qi to attack or fight, let alone escape from Dai Hao and Gan Qingchuan. Wang Sheng didn't move at all. He cooperated and allowed Gan Qingchuan to shackle him. Because of Wang Sheng's cooperation, the two of them didn't make things difficult for Wang Sheng. After putting on the shackles, they chatted as they walked towards the Dai family's courtyard. Dai Hao was a little anxious. He saw that Wang Sheng had already given up resisting. He waited for Gan Qingchuan to shackle Wang Sheng before he rushed out. Evidently, he was heading in the direction of the expert that Wang Sheng had just shot. That injured expert is also from the Dai family. It's normal for Dai Hao to be nervous. Gan Qingchuan explained to Wang Sheng as they walked in that direction. Didn't you say that the Dai family fought with the old Taoist Ling Su of the Laojun temple and got injured? Wang Sheng asked calmly, as if Gan Qingchuan was an old friend. He's indeed injured, Gan Qingchuan replied, and his injuries aren't light. That old Taoist from the Laozi temple is really amazing. I heard that he didn't even get stimulated by the aura of the core of the land of 1,000 despair. But he already has such a cultivation base. It's really incredible. How's the old Taoist's injury? Wang Sheng was very concerned about the condition of the old Taoist Ling Su's injury. It's very heavy. Gan Qingchuan wasn't surprised. He smiled and replied, however, the Laozi temple seems to have a very powerful technique. They chanted something about soldiers, as if they were chanting scriptures. Dozens of people worked together, and it didn't take long for his injury to be stabilized. He recovered very quickly. The 9 syllables mantra was also a secret of the Laozi temple. Even the other 5 sects of Taoism only knew about it. It was normal for the big families not to know about it. Wang Sheng was relieved to hear that the old Taoist had recovered very quickly from Gan Qingchuan. Dozens of legendary old Taoist priests used the soldier mantra. Although it wasn't as powerful as Wang Sheng's, it was still enough to stabilize the old Taoist Ling Su's injury. As long as the old Taoist could use it himself, there wouldn't be a problem for him to recover later on. Dai Sheng's injury is all thanks to Song Lian. Gan Qingchuan didn't seem to be afraid that Wang Sheng knew more. He explained as he walked, you can see that Song Lian has a superb healing technique. As long as he's still breathing, there's an 80% chance that he can be saved. Then what if Dai Sheng can't make it? Wang Sheng asked without batting an eyelid. The power of the heavy sniper crossbow was very strong. If the opponent was shot in the chest, it wouldn't bode well. Gan Qingchuan looked at Wang Sheng with some surprise. He didn't understand why he was so confident, but he still replied, that's also fate. It's already very shameful for the strong to bully the weak. We're even 4 against 1. If he really can't be saved in this situation, then he's just unlucky. This is your glory. You can enjoy it to your heart's content. You old seniors are really open-minded. Wang Sheng smiled and complimented. Is it that at this stage of cultivation, some things must be seen through? That's right. Wang Sheng's words made Gan Qingchuan look at Wang Sheng in surprise again. Seeing that Wang Sheng's expression was normal and didn't look nervous at all, he nodded in his heart and replied, no wonder we've heard so many rumors about you recently. Each one of them is so unbelievable. You can guess so much from just one sentence. You're the junior with the best comprehension I've ever seen. I'm very curious. What weapon did you use to be able to hurt Dai Shang? Gan Qingchuan immediately asked. As far as I know, the power of your heavy sniper crossbow isn't that great. The arrowhead was made from the teeth of a 13th stage deep-sea shark. Wang Sheng didn't talk about the improved heavy sniper crossbow. He only talked about the power of the tooth arrow. The arrowhead is engraved with a powerful explosion formation. As long as it hits the target, there will be a terrifying explosion. But your cultivation is indeed terrifying. The one in front has already exploded into pieces. In the end, Dai Sheng's body didn't even split open. In any case, the storage ring for the heavy sniper crossbow was still on him. Even if they found it, they would only think that it was shot from the heavy sniper crossbow. As for the tooth arrow, Wang Sheng had more than 10 of them that were specially made for the heavy sniper crossbow. They would see them. These were all preparations to confuse the enemy. As the two of them spoke, they had unknowingly walked a few kilometers. They were already close to where Dai Sheng had been shot. During this period, they spoke quite a lot. Wang Sheng did not forget to ask for some cultivation methods of a higher realm. Gan Qingchuan was also very magnanimous and told him everything he knew. It was as if Wang Sheng was his close junior, and he did not hold back at all. At this time, there were already quite a few people here. Dai Sheng was also lying on a bed instead of standing up. When they saw Wang Sheng and Gan Qingchuan, everyone in the Dai family, apart from Dai Hao, didn't look happy. They all stared at Wang Sheng with hatred. Wang Sheng didn't care about their gazes. How many members of the Dai family had died at his hands? It was normal for them to look at him like that. If these people were as carefree as Dai Hao and Gan Qingchuan, the Dai family would be too scary. Dai Sheng was lucky. Song Lian came back in time. He managed to save his life from the brink of death. When Wang Sheng came over, he was still panting. It was obvious that he was alive. At the same time, Wang Sheng had a whole new level of respect for Song Lian's healing methods and abilities. It's so powerful. It's comparable to the 9 syllables mantra's 7 syllables, right? It might even surpass it. There were indeed many capable people in this world. Wang Sheng warned himself not to underestimate the heroes of the world. Chapter 1533. Wang Sheng had been living very comfortably over the past few days. The Dai family seemed to be very trustworthy. They didn't make things difficult for him. They gave him food and drinks. Apart from the fact that he couldn't be removed from his shackles, they basically fulfilled all of Wang Sheng's requests. Even if Wang Sheng wanted women, the Dai family would probably give them to him with both hands. His spirit qi was completely sealed. Wang Sheng tried, but he couldn't activate the spirit qi in his body no matter what method he used. Without the help of external spirit qi, he couldn't even use the 9 syllables mantra. The Dai family couldn't be bothered to deal with Wang Sheng over the past few days. Song Lian had to use all his strength to stabilize Dai Sheng's injuries. If he wanted to recover, it would take a lot of effort. As for Dai Xiao, he was making his final preparations. He couldn't be bothered either. In a secret room in the Dai family's courtyard, Dai Xiao had a hideous look on his face. His expression showed how much pain he was in. What was strange was that Dai Xiao's limbs were all shackled. Like Wang Sheng, he couldn't move at all. His body was contorting from the pain, and he looked very ugly. Dai Hao, who had been talking to Wang Sheng earlier, was sitting opposite Dai Xiao. He was very calm as he looked at Dai Xiao. It seemed like he didn't feel that anything was wrong. The Dai family's great elder was sitting beside Dai Hao. He was also very calm. However, the great elder's eyes flashed with anxiety from time to time as he looked at Dai Xiao's face. After a long time, Dai Xiao finally calmed down. His expression also slowly returned to normal. In just a short while, Dai Xiao seemed to have gone through an extremely intense battle. His entire body was covered in sweat, and he was about to collapse. Dai Xiao finally stabilized himself as he leaned on the shackles that were binding him. After sitting up, he panted for a while before nodding at the great elder. The great elder glanced at Dai Hao. After seeing Dai Hao nod, he stepped forward like a lackey and quickly untied Dai Xiao's shackles. At the same time, He handed him a pill and a large bowl of water. Dai Xiao swallowed the pill and gulped down the water. It was as if he had been thirsty for a few days. One bowl of water wasn't enough. He drank 3 bowls consecutively before he really calmed down. At this time, Dai Xiao took the towel that the great elder personally handed to her and wiped her sweat bit by bit. He wasn't treating the great elder like a servant. Instead, there were only the 3 of them in the secret room. With Dai Xiao's current state, the great elder couldn't possibly let Patriarch Dai Hao do these things. "How's the devouring?" Dai Hao asked after Dai Xiao was done, expressionless. "It's very difficult. Just a little bit." Dai Xiao shook her head and replied pessimistically, "It's basically the same as 3 days ago. There's no substantial progress. Letting you absorb 4 13th-stage realm souls at the same time is indeed a little too much." Dai Hao sighed and explained to Dai Xiao, "If we don't hurry up, those 4 souls will disappear. There won't be a better opportunity in the future." "Ancestor, I understand." Dai Xiao hurriedly put on a smiling face. "How could I not understand the 2 ancestors' nurturing of this child? I won't complain at all. Looks like your origin soul does indeed have an innate defect." Dai Hao nodded. If Dai Xiao couldn't even tell this and had any complaints, he wasn't fit to be the head of the Dai family. Dai Hao had come out of the ceiling formation a little earlier. Hence, he knew many things about the Dai family, including the origin of Dai Xiao's origin soul. Once he heard that Dai Xiao's origin soul could devour other origin souls to grow, Dai Hao immediately had an idea. It was not necessary to kill the 4 experts who had no descendants. Just as Gan Qingchuan had said, to be able to cultivate to such a level, there were some things that they had to be indifferent to. The 4 of them might not vent their anger on other clans. After all, anything could happen in the past 500 years. The annihilation of their descendants might not be the fault of other clans. However, Dai Hao and Dai Sheng had ulterior motives. They worked together with the other families to push for the idea of killing the 4 of them. On the surface, their motive was to get rid of any future trouble. In reality, it was for the origin souls of the 4 13th-stage experts. Over the past 500 years, Dai Hao had figured out a unique technique. He could forcefully absorb the soul of a human expert within 15 minutes of his death. Then he could transfer it to another person's origin soul for a longer period of time. The 4 13th-stage expert souls have been forcefully absorbed by Dai Hao before they were sent to Dai Xiao's origin soul. Originally, they thought that Dai Xiao's soul would be able to devour the souls of the 4 of them, allowing Dai Xiao's cultivation to rise by at least 1.5 levels, directly advancing from the legendary realm to the 12th stage. However, they encountered a problem at the most certain step of devouring. Although the 4 elemental spirits were all in the 13th stage realm, but because they were already dead, their elemental spirits did not receive any replenishment of spiritual qi. According to logic, when facing Dai Xiao's powerful devouring elemental spirit, they should have no resistance at all. However, things didn't go according to plan. The 4 souls could be replenished by Dai Xiao's spiritual energy. This was something that Dai Hao hadn't expected. In the end, he had to lock Dai Xiao's spiritual energy during the origin soul devouring step. Dai Xiao's origin soul had to face the 4 13th stage experts alone. Fortunately, these 4 souls had been possessed by humans. They weren't as wild as the original origin souls. They wouldn't actively devour Dai Xiao's origin soul. Otherwise, Dai Xiao's origin soul would have been destroyed by the origin soul devouring step, and he would have become a cripple. After this, Dai Xiao could finally rely on his origin soul's natural origin soul devouring step to devour the 4 souls. At the start, the origin soul devouring step was very successful. However, the 4 souls could only devour 5% each. After that, it was as if he was gnawing on a rock. He could only gnaw on it bit by bit every day. His progress was shockingly slow. Furthermore, Dai Xiao had to endure the backlash of the 4 powerful souls during the origin soul devouring step by step. Without the support of spiritual energy, Dai Xiao was in so much pain that it felt like he was being tortured. If Dai Xiao was given enough time, He could rely on his strong willpower to devour the four souls bit by bit every day. However, the problem was that the four souls wouldn't be able to last for too long in his origin soul space. If he didn't devour them quickly, the four powerful souls would also slowly dissipate. Dai Hao, Dai Sheng, and Dai Zhao's plan would be for naught. How could Dai Hao and Dai Sheng allow such a thing to happen? Everyone thought about it. In the end, they could only think of one reason. When they were collecting the souls back then, they didn't collect a carp. That was why their origin soul devouring step wasn't perfect enough. The missing carp was the one that Wang Sheng currently had. It was also a legendary realm origin soul. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.